Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk coming at you on a Friday. Hi, hello. How the heck are you on the end of this work week and the final day of the month of May in 2024? However you are tuned in, whether you're listening on 580 AM, 104.9 FM, online worldwide at 580wibw.com, or checking us out via our video stream, welcome in to this 4-hour plus edition of 580 Sports Talk. We'll have our first 580 Sports Talk overtime of the baseball season coming up at about 6:10 or so, taking you up to Royals baseball tonight. 6:30 pregame, 7:10 first pitch at the K as the Royals open up a brief 3-game homestand with the first 3 contests against the San Diego Padres. I am Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis will be joining us shortly, and Trenton Craxner is across the glass. That's the 3-man trio for you. 3-man trio, I guess, is a little bit redundant, but you get what I'm saying. That's the 3-man group for you here this afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski is on vacation. He is out today and all of next week. I'll be out at some point for a little bit. Don't know when. Baby boy Lucero due next Tuesday, but not here yet. So here I am. That's how you'll be able to keep track of whether or not baby boy Lucero has made his presence. Is whether or not you hear from me when the mic goes hot at 2:00. If you hear me, baby not here yet. If you don't hear me, baby's here. That's
if you hear me hosting the show, that means
baby's here.
Yeah. That means Dan's got to go be a father.
Yes, that means I have some things to attend to that are very personal. So, but for today, it is me, it is Spencer, it is Trenton, and it is all of you. We appreciate you being along with us today. We've got lots of great stuff, lots of great content to get to on today's program. We're going to talk a lot of Royals baseball because now is the time where it gets real. The toughest month of the season awaits the boys in blue as they start a difficult 29-game stretch tonight against the San Diego Padres. And we'll ask, how soon is too soon for the Royals to make moves to improve the Major League roster? Do you think they can let it play out in the month of June, see where they stand against baseball's best? Because they are going to play the 3 best teams by record, or 3 of the 4 best teams by record in Major League Baseball over the next month. Or should the Royals act now and try and bolster their bullpen or their lineup with some moves? We'll talk about that. And because we haven't done it in a while, and because we are 2 months through the Major League Baseball season now, we're going to dig up Is It Good? And we're going to play a little MLB edition of Is It Good? We will talk about the Royals. Is it good? We will talk about this weekend's Royals opponent, the Padres. Are they good? The Cleveland Guardians, their offense. Is it good? And some other topics as well. But we'll play some MLB Is It Good? We're going to talk a lot of baseball on today's edition of the program. We're also going to talk plenty of Chiefs. I'm starting to think that there's a chance that the Chiefs defense gets better in 2024. And I want to talk about why I feel that way. We're going to get to that in the 3:00 hour, and then we'll talk about it with our Chiefs insider, Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He is going to join us at the bottom of the 3:00 hour, as he does every Friday here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll get Matt's thoughts on all of the latest Chiefs happenings on the show.
Should be a good time to have him on because we learned a lot yesterday from the assistants talking after OTAs.
We sure did, didn't we?
That was a big a lot of information dump.
We learned a whole lot, didn't we, yesterday, hearing from Steve Spagnuolo, Matt Nagy. We played those press conferences for you on the program. If you missed anything from yesterday's show, of course, you can check out the video archive or our podcast archive at 580wibw.com. So, yes, lots to talk with Matt Derrick about on the show at the bottom of the 3:00 hour. Other things we're going to get to today, we'll play a little Change My Mind later on this hour. We'll do On Second Thought in the 3:00 hour. We'll crown our May champion on What Is Wrong With You, the bite and run incident or the suspended license. Who you got? The May championship of What Is Wrong With You. We will find our 5th entry into the Tournament of Failed Champions, which we hold every December on the program. A little bit of college basketball to get to as well. Turns out K-State does have another big visitor coming in next week, and how could that impact their roster for next year if Jerome Tang can seal the deal with a former Kentucky Wildcat? And how important is it that Arthur Kaluma come back to Kansas State? I have thoughts on that, and we'll get to that later on in the show. Plus, of course, your 580 Sports Talk headlines, all the other things that you've come to know and love from the program here in the next 4 hours on 580 Sports Talk. You are, as always, invited and encouraged to be a part of the discussion. The Top City Metal Supply text line is live. 785-272-9429 is the number. That's 785-272-9429. We will read your texts throughout the program if you'd like to communicate with us in that fashion. Of course, we also read the comments. You're never supposed to read the comments. I tell my wife all the time. Like, if she's on Facebook scrolling or something, I tell her all the time, don't read the comments. Don't do it. Whatever you do. The worst thing in the world you can do generally is read the comments. Unless, this is the exception that I make, the comments on the YouTube live chat on 580 Sports Talk. Those are good comments. We like reading those. So join in. If you are watching on our YouTube stream, which, by the way, is on our YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that subscribe button. You can watch the show. You can interact with fellow listeners and us in the YouTube live chat. You can also watch us on Twitter, 580 Sports Talk, and you can watch us on our Facebook page, WIBW News, and you can comment in the Facebook comments. We see those too. There's all kinds of ways you can interact with us today, and we welcome your interaction on this Feel Good Friday edition.
Can I respond to a comment from yesterday at the end of the show that I didn't see?
If you'd like.
So yesterday at the end of the show, I guess it just got compounded. I didn't see it. Vance said I was wearing a hat that could cause seizures.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that it did that. I think it was just the lighting and the reflection.
We apologize.
We apologize for that. It was
and are not liable for any damages, I don't believe.
It was a Red Sox giveaway hat from when I went to Fenway in 2016.
It was very patriotic. Did you go on July 4th?
I don't think so.
It was a Stars and Stripes Red Sox hat.
Yeah, I think it was the end of June. That's why.
Very interesting hat.
Yeah,
the trucker back. You like the trucker hat, Spencer? I've seen you wear a couple of them.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of those.
See, I can't do it. Like, I don't even like the adjustable caps, to be honest with you. I like a fitted cap. Even the dad hat, what they call them now. I guess that's going to be pretty appropriate for me anyhow. But like the 47 brand puts them out. You've seen me wear them if you watch the video stream. I've got all kinds of hats, but like the ones that aren't like the new era on field one size, like I'm a 7.5 in those, but like the ones that are large or extra large, you just get them in like one size and they're kind of adjustable, flex fit, got a real bent visor. I like those too. I can't do adjustables, and I really can't do the trucker hats. It's not my vibe. I'm not saying I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying they're not me. Not everything is for everybody.
I have a big head. Also my hair, sometimes I grow it longer, sometimes I don't. So those hats kind of change, like those new era fitted hats.
Sure.
That they change. Like I could barely wear my Nationals one this past weekend when I went to the game because
what size are you in that hat size?
I'd have to look.
You really don't know? That's not something you know off the top of your head?
7 and something.
Yeah, everybody's a 7 and something except like
I think
Kevin Mensch and Bruce Bochy.
I think that hat's a 7 and 3/8.
Barry Bonds.
I think that's a 7 and 3/8. I think I should be a 7.5.
Okay, so you got the same size as me.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a big head. Do you think I have a big head? You said you had a big head. We have the same size?
No, I just feel like I have a big head.
Okay. It's
the internal feeling.
Matter of perception. I see. Okay. But this has been Talking Hats on 580 Sports Talk. Things always get loose on a Friday. Let's talk some Royals baseball, shall we?
Yes.
Because this is about to get really, really fun for the Royals. We have arrived at the end of May. Today, the final day of May in 2024. And the Royals have the 4th best record in the American League and the 7th best record in all of baseball. They are tied for the 3rd best expected win-loss record in baseball. That is because they have the 2nd best run differential in the entire American League. So their record as it stands is not only not a fluke based on the way that they are playing, but actually a few games worse than they ought to be. Their Pythagorean win-loss record is 38-20. That's 3 games better than they actually are. Again, the Royals have been winning blowouts and losing close games, usually a sign that you're a good team. And generally speaking, those one-run games, those even out over time. Royals caught the wrong end of some one-run losses in Minnesota in their series loss to the Twins earlier this week. But based on how they have played, The Royals arriving at this 35-23 record is not an accident. It's not a fluke. They have played well enough to earn this record. But no month of baseball this year stands to test them as much as this coming month. In case you have not looked at the schedule or do not have one handy, here's what lies ahead for the Royals between today and the final day of the month of June. 3 games this weekend against the Padres, who come in 30-29 on the year. Then 3 games at Cleveland. Yes, for some reason, the schedule makers, in their infinite wisdom, did not pit the Royals and Guardians against each other until the first full week of the month of June. And it just so happened that those are 2 teams leading the American League Central right now. But we finally get to see what that looks like as the Royals make the trip to Progressive Field next week. Following that, it's back home for a 7-game homestand against the other first place teams in the American League as of this morning. 3 games at home against the Seattle Mariners, 4 at home with the hated, loathed New York Yankees. Then it's a 9-game road trip out west, 3 games at the Dodgers. And I know they're 3 games back, or at least 3 wins back of Philadelphia in the National League standings. I still believe the Dodgers are the best team in the National League. 3 games at Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine against the Dodgers. Then after a day off, 3 games in Oakland against the A's, who are not the best team in any measure. And then 3 games at Texas against the defending World Series champion Rangers. The Royals return home after that for a 7-game homestand to close out the month. 3 games at home against the wretched Miami Marlins, and then 4 more at home with the Guardians. That's 29 games, 20 of them against teams with winning records as of this morning. 17 of them against teams currently in first place in their respective divisions, and 7 of them against the team with a 3-game lead in the American League Central going into today's action. And first and foremost, if you're a Royals fan, you should just be fired up that these games mean something, that it matters how the Royals measure up against the best of the best, that with a winning month, the playoff odds for this team will only increase, that we will get to see how Bobby Witt Jr. and Vinny Pasquantino and Cole Reagans and the rest of these younger Royals respond to heightened regular season stakes for the first time. You should be charged up today if you're a Royals fan. You should be looking at this 29-game slate, and you should not be looking at it with dread. You should be looking at it with excitement. You should be looking at it with a lot of anticipation that these games, when you sit down to watch or listen to, or you're buying tickets to the K for later on this month, or you're trying to win tickets when we give them away on the show, you should be fired up that these games matter. But the question is, Spencer, and that's what we're going to kind of gnaw on here as we start 580 Sports Talk today. What's a fair expectation for these 29 games? Because certainly the expectations for the Royals have increased, I would say, now that the season is underway, and that we would expect a team that carries the second best run differential in the American League into this stretch of games should be able to acquit itself well. We will also get real live Kansas City Royals fan Trenton Kraxner's expectations here. Trent, we'll get to you in just a little bit as it comes to expectations for this month. But I honestly feel like if the Royals can play 500 ball for the next 29 days, they're going to be in great shape.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. I was going to go 15, 14, 16, 13, like right around there. You're already a number of games above 500. So you've banked, as we've discussed for weeks and weeks and weeks, they banked those wins already.
Mm-hmm.
So just they were at a pace for whatever 90-something wins at one point. I don't know what they are exactly today.
Well, I'll do the math on that, but you continue.
But if you can be a few games over 500 in the month of June, that'll help you. And I those wins in the bank have helped so much for them right now. And I think the confidence for these hitters just continues to get better. And if your top guys are hitting, good, great. They're supposed to. If the guys that struggle in the beginning of the year are starting to get into it, then yeah, that's a good thing for the team going into this month against some of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, you're going to need to have that lineup depth, and we've seen varying levels of a pulse over the last week and change from guys like Nelson Velasquez and Hunter Renfroe and even MJ Melendez with a good game yesterday. The Royals are on right now still a 98 win pace,
which is crazy.
Unbelievable to think that that's what we're talking about with the Kansas City Royals. And I don't think it's controversial to say I don't think they're actually a 98 win team.
No,
I don't. I think that there is some regression coming, and it probably would stand to reason that it would come against a difficult stretch of the schedule. Again, 17 games of the next 29 are against first place teams. 7 of them against Cleveland, 3 of them against Seattle, 4 of them against the Yankees, 3 of them against the Dodgers. Seattle's really only in first place because somebody has to be in what has been a really disappointing American League West so far. They've actually got a negative run differential at 31-27, which is interesting. But yes, these are the heavyweights of baseball that await the Royals. 17 of the 29 games. And yes, you get 3 against Oakland, 3 against Miami. 3 against Miami are at home. That'll be a nice little break in the schedule, those 6 games. But even the games that are not against first place teams, you get 3 against this talented San Diego team who they're 30-29. It still feels like they're underachieving given the level of talent they've got on their roster. And then 3 against a Texas team that who knows how much different they might look towards the end of this month if they start getting some guys healthy, particularly some of their pitchers healthy. But they're certainly underachieving at 27-29 relative to the talent that we know is on their roster because they're the defending champs. So this is a stretch of difficult games that is going to stress test the depth in the Royals lineup, certainly, because they're going to face some outstanding pitching. But it's also going to stress test the Royals pitching because you're facing some of the best lineups in baseball. And it's going to stress test the Royals bullpen. And one of the things that sticks out to me as a concern for this stretch, those 7 games in a row against the Yankees and Dodgers, it's a lot of left-handed thump in that lineup. The Dodgers, of course, have Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman up top. Max Muncy, of course, an elite left-handed power hitter. Yankees have Juan Soto. There are going to be some spots, even against Cleveland. You've got a switch hitter in Jose Ramirez who's platoon-proof, and then Josh Naylor does most of his damage from the left side. But there are going to be some moments where you're going to have to go get a lefty out in a big spot. And this Royals bullpen, I think that Angel Zerpa has performed well so far this year. Sam Long has shown some flashes in his brief time with the club. But how are the starters, which lean predominantly right-handed? Reagan's the only lefty in the rotation. How are the right-handers in the rotation? How are the right-handers at the back end of the bullpen going to handle some of these big left-handed boppers in big spots? We're going to learn a lot, one way or another, about this Royals team. But I think 500 is reasonable to say if they go through this stretch at 15-14, 14-15, they've already banked 12 games above 500. That is such an advantage to have that already in the bank so that as long as it doesn't turn into something like a disaster, like they go 10-19, then the collar gets a little tight and you start to really wonder about this group. But even if, let's say they really struggle with the big boys. Let's say the Yankees come into the K and take 3 out of 4. Let's say they get swept at Dodger Stadium. Let's say they go 3-4 against the Guardians. You'd only drop 1 game in the division race in those contests. But if you go 13-16 in the month, it is not by any stretch to say that all is lost. It would not be, I don't think, a great demerit against this Royals team to say that they're not as good as the Dodgers, that they're not as good as the Yankees. Nobody thinks they are even right now, even though they have a record that's comparable. They only have 1 fewer win than the Dodgers. But if they struggle against those elite teams, you know where that puts them? In a pretty good group of company with everybody else who's scratching and clawing for a playoff spot behind the truly elite teams in Major League Baseball. There would be no shame in finding out firmly this month that the Royals are a rung below. But man, can you imagine if they're not?
Yeah.
Like what if they just hold their water on the road, which they've been really good at doing? Hold their water on the road, go 6-6. Unless they play really well at home. They've been awesome at home. 19-8 at the K so far this year. What if they reel off? They got 19 home games, I believe it is, in this 29-game stretch. So that's another big advantage of this. Check that. 17. 12 road games, 17 home games. Could they go 10-7 at home? That's like winning every series, maybe splitting with the Yankees those 4 games.
Yeah.
I think that's doable. I think that's within the realm of possibility to get out of this month with 16, maybe even 17 wins if you really hold serve at home. And if you've done that, you have really served notice that what you've done the first 2 months, if you're the Royals, is not only not an accident, but you're in this to stay. And you've got a real chance of running down Cleveland and a real chance of winning this division and doing something that is fairly unprecedented in baseball history, going from outhouse to penthouse in the span of just one season.
Well, yeah, and that's the point there. And I think there's so much hope if you're a Royals fan specifically, that although this year will probably end in a disappointment, it's great for the overall future. We're looking at where we are right now.
Well, define disappointment, because like all but one team really ends their season in disappointment.
You're correct.
You're trying to win a championship,
but
right?
Like if they come up and they have 90 something wins and then they get swept out of the first series, that's still a win in my book.
Absolutely it is. I would have said if they win 85 games this year, throw these guys a parade. I would have said that in March. I would have said that on opening day. If they won 85 games, oh my gosh, start building the Bobby Witt Jr. statue. So the fact that we're talking about 90-ish wins is even a remote possibility for this group. If they come out of this month not only unscathed, but in better shape than they entered it, again, if you're a Royals fan, I don't know how you're anything but torqued about these next 29 games on the schedule.
Look, they're only 21 wins away from tying their win total from last year.
Right.
And it is May
106.
It is May 31st.
Yeah.
Like anything is a win. I just think like at the beginning of the year, you guys had very tapered expectations because it's hard to go from 56 to 92.
Right. Almost impossible.
Yeah. And I just,
given how few times that has happened in history.
And I just threw out a round of 500 record because I was new. To be honest,
you were trying to curry favor.
I didn't know that much. I didn't like even deep diving into spring training and everything. I didn't know that much about the Royals then. So I just took a guess. Hey, let's go 81 and 81.
Across the glass, Trenton Kraxner, certified Royals fan, carries a Mike Aviles baseball card in his wallet. That's not true. I made that up. But Royals fan, Trenton Kraxner, I want you to weigh in, Trenton. What is your heart telling you? What is a reasonable expectation for these next 29 games?
I would say being about 500. I'd be ecstatic because if you're 35 and 23 right now, if you go 15-14, you have 50 wins already going in. 50. You're not before the All-Star break.
Yes.
They had like 28 last year at the All-Star break. You got to win the home ones. Like you got to take 2 out of 3 from San Diego, and you got to be up on the bad teams, like you said.
Which they've done.
Right. And, like you said, they've given away a bunch of games, especially on the road. They've gotten walked off a couple times. The bullpen's not been nearly as good on the road. But, they have the lefties in the bullpen to get Soto, Rizzo, all those guys down the future. But I think, like you said, I'm very excited because this is how good are the Royals actually? Are they going to be in the race in September?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to fall off and even just be fighting for 500 in September? This is the month that really defines how good this Royals team is. So my expectation would be play 500 ball.
I think that's reasonable because I think, if we thought that this team were really like a 98 win team, which is what they played like again, the first 2 months per their win-loss record, then I think we'd have higher expectations for that. But I still think there is, even with the most optimistic Royals fan, maybe a little bit of wariness that, okay, yeah, they're playing great ball, but they have beaten up on the dregs. This is the hardest part of the schedule coming up. We'll see how they match up. We'll see if the lineup depth is going to be something that comes through in this stretch. So I do. I think this is an exhibit of belief that the Royals are in fact good, but stopping short of believing that they are a legitimate like championship contender. Like that they are on a tier with the Yankees or Baltimore or Philadelphia and the Dodgers. Like, I don't know that they're on that tier, but I think they're as good as the Guardians. So I think those 7 games, obviously the most important ones of the month.
Yeah. And Cleveland has played the Braves and some tougher teams already, but they've played a cupcake schedule too. Mm-hmm. When you break it down, and they're 3-4 against the White Sox. The Royals are 6-1. not going to try and bag on your Rockies, but they just lost 2 out of 3 to the Rockies.
They did. That did happen. Thank you for bringing that up.
And, they were tied 7-7 in the 7th in the one game they won. So, I mean, I think Cleveland's going to hit some regression, especially how much they're using their bullpen. I think Kansas City, they're up 6 games on the Red Sox and Tigers, the 2 teams that are right on the outside of the wild card right now. So they're way up on the wild card. So if you play about 500 ball, I think you can really hold serve in the wild card and solidify your spot there, and just keep pace with the Guardians, because you just go 3-4, 4-3 against them. Keep pace with them and give yourself a chance to make moves at the All-Star break, the trade deadline, and go forward with that.
And I think that is where they need to go. We'll talk about this later in the hour, but I think the trade deadline is where all eyes need to go, or the trade element of the season is where kind of the eyes need to go if you're the Royals front office right now.
We're going to learn a whole lot about them here in these next 29 games. Some thoughts from the YouTube live chat. Joe says if they could play close to 500 ball this month, they'll win the Central. Love that optimism from Joe. Mark says, thinking that too about the Royals, go 15-14 or better would be very cool. Our guy Christopher, he's got it all laid out. He thinks they'll go 3-4 against Cleveland, but 2-1 against San Diego, 2-1 against Seattle, lose the Yankee series, lose the Dodger series, 2-1 against Oakland, 1-2 against Texas, 3-0 against Miami. That gets you to 500. That all sounds entirely reasonable. Maybe even like you're tempering expectations a bit, and you still 14-15. He did bad math. So I also did bad math. But 14-15, like
if you're around that number,
I think that'd be fine. You go into July 11 games over 500 if you get there,
because you bank those wins.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Kaufman Ghetto has
yes, our pal from Twitter, Kaufman Ghetto, not happy. I hear negativity. Hey, listen, I don't think it's negative to say 500 ball against the toughest part of the schedule is good. Like, I think that's entirely reasonable, and I would be more inclined. Again, I'm a big believer in the Royals starting pitching and run prevention being repeatable against good teams. I think they are got a better shot to be closer to a best case scenario than a worst case scenario. How's that for some wishy-washy positivity? Like, I would be more surprised if they went like 11-18 in this stretch than I would be if they went 19-10. Like, I would be more surprised if they absolutely fell on their face in this stretch than I would if they sailed through this stretch and had a 4-game division lead by the end of the month.
Yeah. Look, Bobby Witt Jr. said it best. The boys are playing some ball, and you can now buy that shirt at the Royals team store. I wish you are going to the game this weekend.
I wish they hadn't shown me that. I'm gonna be very tempted to buy a shirt. I'm gonna be extremely tempted to.
Me too.
To copy.
I love that quote. That's a great quote.
It is. Good slogan, good team. It's not an accident. We got to take a break. We are overdue for our first break of the hour here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we're going to play a round of Change My Mind. That's coming up on this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. 2:37 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Spencer, Trenton with you. We're going to play Change My Mind in just a little bit, but hey, Spencer, what you sipping on, pal?
Maybe I should turn my mic on.
Yeah, that would help.
Creamsicle drink.
You've got a little orange creamsicle drink from the Big Biscuit, a creamy blend of Orange Crush. You didn't know what you were drinking. You just poured it. You said, yeah, that looks good. Orange? Yeah, sure. That's Orange Crush, coconut cream, and lime. I've got a little taste of the Cowboy Colada here. That's Starry, pineapple juice, coconut cream, and lime. Trenton, you get some too? What you got?
I got some of the orange creamsicle. It sounded real good.
And is it real good? Of course
Very much
it's
so,
real
yes.
good.
The coconut just makes it like its own drink. Like I heard orange creamsicle and I was like, oh, it's just going to be like an orange soda. No, this puts it beyond.
Folks, if you're looking for a drink with a refreshing twist, be sure to stop by the Big Biscuit in Topeka to try their new Western soda lineup. In addition to the Cowboy Colada and the orange creamsicle, they've got the Stallion, Dr. Pepper, coconut cream and lime, the Dolly, Starry, strawberry puree, coconut cream and lime, and the Desert Sun, which is a vibrant Brit mix of Mountain Dew, strawberry, coconut cream, and lime. That's the new Western soda lineup from our friends at the Big Biscuit in Topeka. All right, let's play a little Change My Mind. Spencer, you go first.
Change my mind. The most, I just forgot the word I was saying. The most anticipated, the thing that I'm most anticipating for the next NFL season is not the Chiefs trying to go back to back to back for the three-peat. Not seeing my Commanders have Jaden Daniels, have a competent head coach, not seeing all the new things in the NFL when it comes to players or coaches. It's these new kickoff rules. From what we heard yesterday from Chiefs special teams coordinator Dave Tobe about what they're able to do, Louis Rees-Zammit could do more than just be a running back. He can also kick the ball. Justin Reed is going to be a big-time person in, at least right now, theoretically, how they see it in the kickoffs. I think while the NFL changed the rules for the kickoff, that is the most thing I'm looking forward to this year because there's so many. We don't know how it's going to play out, but it's very intriguing the way that it's been talked about so far.
So I agree with you. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that all gets handled and
because right now I'm intrigued.
Yeah, like how teams approach it.
Yes,
and what kind of strategic wrinkles. And I think this is the other part of it too. The kickoff return is going to be a play again.
Yes,
like I check out on the kickoffs, don't you? Like, oh, it's they're lined up for the kickoff. Yeah, whatever.
The only time I'm going
to go refill my drink. I'm going to go, I might run to the restroom. I don't need to see the kickoff because Harrison Butker's going to kick it 10 yards out of the end zone.
The only time I ever would do it is if I'm watching preseason game. If I was watching a preseason game and there's a speedster they have back there.
Yeah, but even then, sometimes they don't really get to return it, right?
Yeah.
So these new rules should bring that play back in. So there's a little bit of intrigue. Field position becomes important again. Instead of everybody just starting every drive at the 25-yard line. And I'm very interested from an on-field standpoint to see how teams handle that. I don't know that it's the most compelled I am by any storyline heading into the 2024 NFL season, but I do think it's a very compelling one. So I will not try and change your mind. I will not douse that flame that you hold for the new kickoff rules.
I just haven't really looked at it too much. I just knew it was being changed and they're going to utilize players in different ways. Mm-hmm. But then what Tobe said yesterday about the fact that like hang time doesn't matter. Like being a kicker in this position may not matter. What you do and how you chase the runner, the guy that possesses the ball, is the most intriguing part of it.
All right, for my Change My Mind today, change my mind. 2 Kansas Jayhawks are going to go in the first round of the NBA draft. I think both Johnny Furphy and Kevin McCullough are going to hear their names in the first round. And I am not alone here. ESPN released a new mock NBA draft today. They had Johnny Furphy going 18th overall to Orlando, with McCullough, the final pick of the first round, number 30 to Boston.
I think McCullough's injury may push him out of the first round.
That would
injury questions.
That would be the concern, right? And the author here, I want to make sure, Jonathan, I never pronounce his name right. My apologies. Jonathan Giavoni and Jeremy Wu co-author this mock draft. And Jeremy Wu wrote the blurb for McCullough at number 30 overall. Late season injuries put a bit of a damper on McCullough's season in Kansas, but a strong first month helped reframe his NBA readiness and moved him from two-way contract candidate into what will likely be guaranteed money on draft night. So more and more teams that pick late in the first round are probably going to look for guys who are not so much project players, but are more so veterans who they can plug in and maybe get some minutes from right away because of the way that the salary cap works out. Like if you're a championship caliber team, you're picking late in the first round, you probably have a lot of money tied up in your stars. Like with Boston in particular, they got a lot of money tied up in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. The Nuggets pick late, obviously. A lot of money tied up in their starting lineup. Minnesota's got a lot of money tied up in Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, and they've got to pay Anthony Edwards. They're going to have to extend him, give him a max deal. So you need your other roster spots to be able to contribute, and more mature players like a Kevin McCullough, who will enter the draft at 23 years old, are, I think, more likely to be immediate contributors for teams who are in that spot. And those teams, I think, are going to be looking for players like that. So I do think McCullough is going to be really appealing. I don't think he quite fits what Denver needs or what Minnesota needs. Minnesota picks 27th. But Boston, I could see that. I could see that they maybe need a wing, somebody who can be a switchable defender, somebody who can provide a little ability to go to the basket. They don't really have that off their bench right now. So I think that would be a fascinating fit for the reigning Eastern Conference champions.
Yeah.
And then Furphy.
I'm all in on him going first round. I think what he decided he wasn't going to participate in the scrimmage. Was that it?
I think that's right.
Yeah. Because from all accounts, he kind of got what he was going to, what he wanted to hear. So he didn't have to improve his stock at all. So I think he's a first round pick.
This is what Jeremy Woo had to say about Furphy, by the way. Furphy's decision to turn pro went down to the wire as he weighed a return to Kansas, but ultimately felt comfortable enough with his prospect status to remain in the 2024 draft. Furphy has been a bit divisive from team to team, with some scouts highly intrigued by his shooting, size, and physical skills at his age, and others concerned with his defense and the fact it might take him some time to contribute. The Magic have generally favored tall, skilled prospects in his mold and could take a shot on him long term.
It's intriguing that they said he was down to the wire, because all we've heard is that
we assumed it was a no-brainer.
That he was he was going and he just kept it on a whim that maybe he got hurt or something.
On the one hand, yes. Could he develop in a sophomore season at Kansas? Yes. But you know where else you can develop? The National Basketball Association.
The G League.
Where they have the best coaches and they have the best training facilities, and you go up against the best competition in practice every day.
And he's able to make some money.
That's true. Yes. Yeah. He's limited in his NIL contributions because he's a foreign-born player.
Yeah.
No limitations on that rookie deal, though, if he is indeed a first-round pick. That's changed my mind. We're going to take a break. We come back. We'll talk a little more Royals baseball to wrap up this 2 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. 2:48 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Spencer, Trenton, the group with you today. Brendan's out today and all next week, going on vacation, gallivanting about the American West. Going to go check out Arches, Grand Canyon. Going to go do some touristy stuff that I have done, touristy stuff that I haven't done. But he's going to go have a good time without us.
Probably the best time to do it before it gets too hot.
It really is. Have you noticed? My wife and I were talking about this. It seems like in our orbit, people that we know, and this may mean nothing at all, but it seems like a lot of people are doing their vacations early this summer instead of waiting for later in the summer to do them. Is that a phenomenon you've noticed? People in your orbit going on vacations now instead of waiting for later?
Yeah, I have noticed a little bit like people. Yeah.
Like one of my good buddies, they're on a Disneyland family trip right now. And obviously Brendan's on vacation. A lot of Abby's friends have already taken their vacation. Like they packed their classrooms and got on planes. And like, I can understand it from a teacher standpoint. You want to get as far away from the classroom as you possibly can. But no, just something that I've noticed. Might mean absolutely nothing. Probably means absolutely nothing. But just a slice of life observation here on 5.
The observation is it's probably cheaper to go right now than it would be in the middle of June or July.
Very well could be. Very well could be. Maybe less crowded. I don't know how those things go.
That too, because some schools, some places are still have schools in session.
Yeah, that's true as well. Royals made a roster move today. As we sort of predicted on yesterday's show, Daniel Lynch sent down.
Predicted that.
I believe I did. Certified ball knower Dan Lucero had this before anyone else. Daniel Lynch, after he made the emergency start in place of the ill Brady Singer, sent down. Royals went and got bullpen reinforcement, called up Will Klein from AAA. Klein has retired the last 17 batters that he's faced down at AAA Omaha. Really liked what we saw from him in his one-inning cameo earlier this season, his big league debut. Power arm, which the Royals bullpen needs more of. I would be really intrigued to see Klein get more of an opportunity while he's up with the big club. He has to be with the team. The soonest they could call Carlos Hernandez back up, barring an injury, would be 9 days from now. So if they really wanted Carlos Hernandez back, they could call him up for Will Klein, but they'd have to wait 9 days to do it. So Klein's going to be with the team. He's going to have a stretch of days where he's with the club. I'd really like to see him get in a perfect world. There are no high leverage innings. You win every game 10-0, but I'd like to see how Klein fares against some good hitters, maybe against the meat of that Padre order. Like to see how he attacks Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, Jurickson Profar, who's hitting like Ted Williams somehow in his age 30 season. Couldn't do that in Denver last year, huh, Jurickson? Thanks. Not bitter. So Will Klein back with the ball club. And earlier today, I was reading MLB Trade Rumors had a piece up about the Marlins, who've already made one high-profile trade this season, dealing Luis Arraez to the Padres. There is some trade interest in their closer, the left-hander Tanner Scott, who's 29 years old and has racked up 39 saves over the last 2 seasons and change with the Marlins. He throws very hard. Last year, he struck out 104 guys in 78 innings. That's good. That's enticing. Here's what's not so good. He's walking 7 batters per 9 innings this year. I don't love that. I don't love 18 walks in 23 innings. Even if they come with 23 strikeouts, you know what that's giving me? That's giving me Amir Garrett.
Yeah.
That's giving me like current Aroldis Chapman. Now, the Royals have enough guys who struggle to throw strikes in the back end of the bullpen. And though he was terrific, Scott was last year, only walked 2.8 guys per 9. Every other full season of his big league career, 4.7, 6.5, 4.4, 6.2, 6.6, 7.0. So you tell me what the outlier is. This is a guy who really seems to struggle at finding the zone. Still in all, I think if the Royals could get him for like an A-ball arm or position player, worth a flyer, because he's got some ninth inning experience, which not a lot of guys in the Royals bullpen have. And the guys who do are Will Smith.
Yeah.
And that, not all ninth inning experience is good ninth inning experience. And maybe see if there's a mechanical tweak that Scott could make again that could get him more consistently back in the strike zone. Trust Brian Sweeney and your pitching staff to maybe get him back on plane or whatever it needs to be. I'd be all for this. And I'd be all for the Royals acting quick on this too. Like I would be totally fine if the Royals decided, yeah, we want to strike now. We want to add another trusted arm to our bullpen because we can't be giving away another game like we did yesterday, where you've got a 4-0 lead and it gets away from you because the 6th inning goes real sideways because we just don't have enough quality in the middle of our bullpen.
Yeah, and I think the bullpen is obviously the number one need. I think number two, as it's maybe time to act in the outfield, maybe get a utility guy back that can play all the outfield positions.
I'm A-okay with them waiting and giving Velasquez and Melendez a little bit more time. I'm less bullish on Renfroe. This just might be what he is now. Like, he's in his 30s. This is how players age. Like, you've got it, and then all of a sudden you don't. And that might be just where we're at with Hunter Renfroe right now. But I want to see more from Velasquez, who started hitting the ball over the fence again on that road trip. And I'm not giving up on MJ. I'm not. I mean, you can send him down. You can go get a guy if in 2 weeks MJ still hasn't started showing better at bats. You can send him down. Like, he has options. You can be flexible with him, and you can be flexible with Velasquez too. But I understand, with the top of the order carrying the team the way that they have, the compunction to be a little bit more patient maybe with those corner outfielders. We got a lot more to come on 580 Sports Talk. We're going to talk a lot of Chiefs in the 3 o'clock hour. We'll ask the question, could their defense get even better next year? And we'll talk with Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider from ChiefsDigest.com. In the meantime, in between time, we're going to take a break, and our guy Spencer's going to tuck into the brunch burger from our friends at the Big Biscuit in Topeka. They serve generous portions of freshly prepared comfort food favorites with a creative twist, and all accompanied with friendly smiles bigger than their freshly baked biscuits. Each location offers all-day breakfast and lunch options with dine-in, takeout, or online ordering, kids menus, and bundle ordering. Visit them between 6:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. And remember, don't mess with breakfast. The Big Biscuit in Topeka. Thank you to them.
I'll report back.
Hooking us up. Yeah, let us know how that brunch burger is. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back with the 3 o'clock hour 580 Sports Talk after the news here on 580 WIBW. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on this Feel Good Friday afternoon. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, producer engineer Trenton Craxner with you this afternoon. Brendan Wrzinski on vacation. He'll be back not next week, but the week after. We appreciate you being with us, whether you're listening on 580 WIBW AM, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or if you're checking out the video stream on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. We are 65 subscribers away from 600. Wouldn't it be a great gag if we got there while Brendan was on vacation for a week plus? I think it would.
Oh, yeah.
Go subscribe to the YouTube. YouTube.com. Search 580 Sports Talk. Doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. And what it gets you is all of our live and archive videos at the top of your YouTube page. You can even have it send notifications whenever we go live with any video content. That's if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. You can also watch us on Twitter, our Twitter handle, 580 Sports Talk. And you can watch us on Facebook, too. We're on our Facebook page, WIBW News. Those of you who are watching the video stream saw Spencer house the brunch burger from the Big Biscuit.
I wouldn't say house. I ate it in about 8 minutes.
That's housing it. I'm a slow eater. Like, I am always the person that everyone is waiting on to finish. I just, not passing judgment here, I just eat slower than some other people.
I'll eat slower because most of the time I'm talking, but if I'm at home,
you eat and be done.
I'm eating and be done. So then we can clean up the kitchen and go back to our normal
respect that.
About everything.
Yeah, we got things to do. We got people to see. I respect that. But anyway, you handled the brunch burger. You showed the people the brunch burger, and then you wolfed down the brunch burger. Yay or nay on the brunch burger?
Well, this brunch burger from the Big Biscuit in Topeka is a burger that includes a hand-cracked over-easy egg, hash browns, chopped bacon, cheddar cheese, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion, and mayo on a brioche bun. I'm not a pickle or onion guy, so I discarded those off the side.
That's fine.
Which I'm assuming if you go there and order it, you can ask for no pickle, no onion.
Can confirm.
That was the best like breakfast brunch kind of burger I've ever eaten.
How about that?
That the hash brown, the actual string, I love those.
Big vote of confidence from Spencer for the Big Biscuit. Their Topeka location opened in 2020 and since then has been serving up a great experience. Visit them between 6:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And remember, don't mess with breakfast. Have you tried any other drinks?
I have not.
I got to say my favorite so far is probably I think it's the Cowboy Colada. Starry pineapple juice, coconut cream, and lime. That was really refreshing. Part of the new Western soda lineup, which you can try today at the Big Biscuit in Topeka. Well, not today because they're closed for the day. They close at 2:30 p.m. But go back tomorrow, 6:30 a.m., 2:30 p.m. And remember, don't mess with breakfast at the Big Biscuit in Topeka. Lots of fun stuff to get to. Here in this 3 o'clock hour, we're going to talk a lot of Chiefs football. Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com, our Chiefs insider, is going to join us at the bottom of this hour. So hear from Matt. We still got some more baseball to talk on the show. We're going to play a round of Is It Good MLB Edition in the 4 o'clock hour. We're going to crown a What Is Wrong With You champion. We got a lot of sports headlines to get to in the 5 o'clock hour, including a playoff roundup. The NBA Finals are set. We'll get there. Lots to come on this edition of the show. We appreciate you being along. We appreciate also the interaction, whether you're chiming in on the live chat, if you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. We see the live chat. Appreciate you chiming in. Also, the Top City Metal Supply text line is open for business. 785-272-9429. Text that number, 785-272-9429. That is the Top City Metal Supply text line. Speaking of the YouTube chat, we had a running gag last year, and I don't know if I'm not 100% that I'm remembering the listener's name correctly, screen name correctly, and I apologize if I'm not. And if you're listening right now, you know who you are, because there would be comments on Monday shows after Chiefs victories, or there would be comments in the live chat of our live post-game video reactions to Chiefs games, particularly after Chiefs victories. And they would say the same thing each time. Best defense Mahomes has ever had. I want to say the gentleman's name was Tyler. And I apologize to the gentleman if I am not getting your name correct, but I believe it was Tyler, who would chime in with that every time, like clockwork, without fail. Best defense Mahomes has ever had. And that was a fact. And it bore itself out all the way to another Super Bowl championship for the Chiefs. And I was thinking about that today because I saw an article on NFL.com. And the crux of the article, the NFL's most underappreciated players. Gennaro Felice has his list of the most underappreciated players on each AFC team. They're doing an NFC list, I think, later on, but they have the AFC list out today. And I started thinking, I wonder who the answer is for the Chiefs. Without looking at the list, Spencer, who would you have guessed would be the answer when you say most underappreciated Chief? Who would you have guessed?
I would guess somebody on the D line.
I would have said, yeah, like usually linemen are generally like as a class of player pretty underappreciated. I thought maybe Justin Reed because he didn't get the headlines of a Trent McDuffie or a L'Jarius Sneed last year, but played really good football consistently throughout the 2023 season. I don't blame you for thinking that. But the answer that Gennaro Felice came up with for this article was Drew Tranquill. And I'll read the blurb here. Signed by the Chiefs on a one-year, $3 million deal last offseason, Tranquill proved to be a godsend when star linebacker Nick Bolton was forced to miss half the regular season due to ankle and wrist injuries. Defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo masterfully deployed Tranquill, repeatedly leaning on the versatile linebacker's plus coverage ability before unleashing him on a well-timed blitz from the second level. Bolton returned to action for Kansas City's postseason title run, but Tranquill just kept making plays and trolling opposing fan bases. In March, the Chiefs rewarded Tranquill with a 3-year, $19 million extension. And with Willie Gay Jr.'s departure in free agency, Tranquill's due for an uptick in snaps, more opportunity to wreak havoc. There's Tyler. Tyler's in on the YouTube chat. I knew it was the Tyler. Tyler says best defense ever. So the bar has been raised. We have raised the bar for this Chiefs defense. And I think we can. And I'm going to get to that point. But reading about Tranquill, it got me thinking about two things. Number one, there's a lot of possible answers to that question about underappreciated players for the Chiefs. As if to underscore that point, we have a texter from the 785 who submits both Mike Dana and George Karlaftis. And I think Dana's a great answer to the question because of his versatility. But you brought up, you were talking about defensive linemen.
I was thinking Dana.
Yeah. And
I feel like Karlaftis is a guy that a lot of people know. Like, as a guy that didn't really follow the Chiefs as closely,
pick, right?
Yeah, as closely until January, I knew who George Karlaftis was.
Sure.
Didn't really know who Mike Dana was.
So, yeah, he's certainly a good answer to the question. I think Justin Reed's a good answer to the question, and I think Drew Tranquill's a really good answer to the question.
I think clearly he showed, like, he is the kind of guy that, like, did what he was asked when he gets rewarded. Like, he bet on himself when he probably could have stayed in LA.
Sure.
He bet on himself to a 1-year deal with one of the best teams in the league, and he got the opportunity to play due to injury, and they reward him with a 3-year extension.
And with him coming back next year, and the bit in there about assuming more responsibility, playing more snaps with the loss of Willie Gay, I started thinking about how little the Chiefs lost off of last year's defense. Now, they lost 2 starters, and one of them, L'Jarius Sneed, was as good as anybody in football at his position last year. So I don't mean necessarily to minimize L'Jarius Sneed and Willie Gay in particular as players. I think they're very good players. I think both of them have good football ahead of them. I do not think this is an instance where the Chiefs are getting rid of them at like exactly the right time, which I think they did with like Tyrann Mathieu. I think they did. Justin Houston, I think maybe they got rid of a year too early. Eric Berry, they never came off of. It was a year too late. I still think there's good football ahead of L'Jarius Sneed. I think there's good football ahead of Willie Gay. But I went and did the digging on this. The Chiefs played 1,088 defensive snaps last season. That's according to Pro Football Reference. L'Jarius Sneed played 991 of those snaps. That's a lot. That's a substantial chunk of snaps that the Chiefs are going to have to replace in their defensive backfield. Willie Gay played 624 snaps, over half of the defensive snaps. Mike Edwards, who was brought in to be safety 3 on the depth chart, ended up playing quite a bit because you had the Brian Cook injury. He played 621 snaps, so, about 60% of the defensive snaps. Here's how many other snaps have been lost off of the Chiefs defense going into next season? 9. Keandre Coburn played 9 snaps. Those are the only 4 players who played a single defensive snap for the Chiefs last year that aren't going to be back. Now, I'm not including Charles Omenihu here, and I probably could. I don't know when Charles Omenihu is going to be back. I don't know if he'll be back, to be honest. Suffered a pretty bad knee injury in the conference championship game. I would expect him to be on the field at some point, but I don't know. Expect is doing a lot of work, that word, in that sense, because it might be a while. It might be until November, December. But I don't include him. I'm just talking about players who are not on the team anymore. Like, even depth pieces. Like, I had to look. Like, Jack Cochran's still around? Yeah, he is. They re-signed him. Matt Dickerson, they just re-signed him a week ago. Brought him back before OTAs. 4 guys who played any snaps last year are gone from last year's Chiefs defense. That's 2,245 total snaps. If you say 1,088 defensive snaps for 11 players, that's a total of 11,968 defensive snaps. The Chiefs lost 18.8% of their defensive snaps from last year. That is a really low number. And look, again, I am not bringing this up to diminish L'Jarius Sneed's impact. L'Jarius Sneed is a player. I think he's really good. I think he's great. In fact, last year, I thought he should have been an All-Pro, and I thought it was a shame that he wasn't. Willie Gay and Mike Edwards had a role to play on last year's team and played it very well. But in the absence of those 3 guys, the Chiefs are counting on steps forward from, in the secondary, we'll start with Sneed first. Who's got to fill that role? Sounds like Shamari Connor is going to have the first crack maybe at that slot corner spot or that versatile spot, which would then move Trent McDuffie to the Sneed role of lining up either on the outside or in the slot, depending on the matchup, and being the number 1 cornerback. So they're looking for steps forward from those 2, and then one of the more veteran defensive backs, Josh Williams, Jalen Watson, or perhaps a returning Najee Johnson from injury. When it comes to the loss of Willie Gay, they're going to be looking for more snaps from Drew Tranquil and more impact from a guy like Leo Chanel, who I don't know if they're thinking about a step forward from Chanel as much as they're thinking about just maintain the level of play you exhibited down the stretch and into the playoffs last year. So, and I think up front, there are some hopes that maybe George Karlaftis has another level to get to as a former first-round pick. Double-digit sacks last year. Can he increase that number again? Felix Anudike-Uzomah will have a role on next year's defense in his second season.
Yeah, but I think Leo's definitely a guy he showed out in the Super Bowl.
Oh, he was awesome in the Super Bowl. And Shamari Connor, too. Like, I'm getting more and more excited about Shamari Connor for 2 reasons. Number 1, the way that his teammates and coaches talk about him, talk about his level of football intelligence, his level of versatility.
Yeah, that's the big one.
He played all but 1 defensive snap last year in the AFC Championship game. Shamari Connor coming in cold, right? Like, we were just talking Mike Edwards. Mike Edwards gets hurt on the second snap of that game and doesn't come back. This is the Bills game. I'm sorry. This is a divisional round game, not the AFC Championship game. My mistake. Mike Edwards gets hurt. Shamari Connor has to play all but 1 snap of that game. He was the highest graded defender by Pro Football Focus in that game.
Yeah.
At a position that he didn't really play a whole lot of in college. He was more of a slot corner than he was a safety. He had some versatility. They moved him all over the field, but that's not his number 1 position. And he played it brilliantly in an emergency role in the playoffs as a rookie. I think we could be talking about somebody pretty special here. I don't want to put unreasonable expectations on Shamari Connor as a second-year player, but I think it is absolutely reasonable, given the way you hear his teammates. Like the article that Nate Taylor wrote on The Athletic the other day, where he had some quotes from Trent McDuffie just raving about Shamari Connor's ability and versatility. And Steve Spagnuolo had some quotes talking about Shamari. I think he's going to be impactful in a positive way for this Chiefs defense in year 2. Like I said, I don't want to put unrealistic expectations on him. I don't want to say, oh yeah, they'll plug him in for L'Jarius Sneed. He'll do all the Sneed things and the Chiefs won't miss a beat. I'm not saying that. I don't think that's a little unfair to set the bar there, but I think he's going to be really good. I think his football smarts and his versatility, his nose for the ball, he had a pick in the regular season against the Bills. Remember that, again, in a spot where he hadn't been playing a whole lot. I think that it is totally fair to expect that he can take a step forward this year. And what does that group of players all have in common? I'll lay the list out again. From players, I think the Chiefs are probably counting on some steps forward for in terms of production, in terms of snap count for next year. George Karlaftis, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Shamari Connor, Trent McDuffie, Najee Johnson, Jalen Watson, Josh Williams. What do all those players have in common? What are they not, notably?
Starters?
They're not rookies.
Or rookies, yes. Yeah.
They're not first-year players. These are guys who've been in the system. At the very least, they've been around. They've been in the meeting rooms. They've been on the practice field. They've played, and they've come up. A lot of them have had big moments in games. Shamari Connor played great in the playoffs. Jalen Watson has come up with big moments. Josh Williams has come up with big plays. In the Super Bowl, Josh Williams had that deflection on the Brian Cook interception. Leo Chanel played great in the Super Bowl last year. None of these guys are new to the system. None of these guys are first-year players. I think it's always dangerous to be overly reliant on rookies, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it works out great. Like 2 years ago, they were kind of needing Trent McDuffie to be pretty good right out of the gate, and he was excellent. And they needed some pass rush production from George Karlaftis 2 years ago, and he gave it to him. Last year, they didn't need that level of production from rookie Felix Anudike-Uzomah. They gave him what was in effect a redshirt year. He's going to be stronger. He's going to have a better understanding of the defense and his role in it. I think it's reasonable to expect he contributes more next year. All of these guys, I think it's a reasonable expectation that they take steps forward. And if they do, then this whole defense takes another step forward next year.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I think one thing that it appears the Chiefs front office and football talent evaluators are great at doing is getting those guys that can do multiple things, that can be multiple position players within secondary, within a linebacker group, within a defensive line, specifically right now, the secondary. I mean, I watched Najee Johnson play slot corner in college.
Mm-hmm.
I also watched him play free safety. I also watched him line up as a number one corner one game. Like, there's so much that he can do that a lot of these other guys in the depth chart can do. They're essentially plug and play guys.
And I think there are two things that it's very clear that the Chiefs value when they're bringing defensive players into their organization. And one of those, like you just laid out, is that versatility.
Yeah.
Leo Chanel can be a stand-up off-the-ball linebacker, but he can also come in like a bat out of hell off the edge as a pass rusher. Drew Tranquill, as we just talked about, very good in coverage, also a capable blitzer. Every defensive back they've brought in, not every, I guess, but most of the defensive backs they brought in have experience playing corner and safety, and the Chiefs are able to kind of plug them in. But that leads to the second thing that is so important. It's football IQ, for lack of a better way to put it. 2 years ago, with that rookie class that included Karlaftis and McDuffie as first-round picks, remember talking to Mitch Holthus. And, of course, we're going to hear from Mitch when training camp rolls around for those training camp reports, and we'll have Mitch on throughout the season, as always. But I remember talking to Mitch for those training camp reports going into that season. And the one thing he said about McDuffie, about Karlaftis, about Brian Cook, about Leo Chanel, he said that it was a rookie class that was maybe the smartest he'd ever seen. And look, Mitch has been around a long time, and he's seen a lot of football, and he's seen a lot of rookie classes come through one Arrowhead Drive. But he raved about the football intelligence of these guys. And if you are capable of understanding concepts, understanding your role, being able to be flexible within your role, being able to be flexible within the defense, that gives you a chance to, A, contribute right away, which so many of these guys have done, but B, it gives you a chance to continue upward levels of trajectory as you go along as a young player. L'Jarius Sneed got better every year he was a Chief. Every year he got better. It is not unreasonable to suggest that Trent McDuffie can do the same, and he was an all-pro last year. It is not unreasonable to suggest that Brian Cook, returning from injury, can do the same. Text from the 785 Top Speed Mail Supply text line. The other young safety, Brian Cook, great before he got hurt too. Yeah, I think he's going to come back, pick up right where he left off. I think he's got a chance to get better every year. Shamari Connor seems like a guy who can get better every year. It's the kind of player the Chiefs draft. It's the kind of athlete the Chiefs draft. It's the coaching that they surround these guys with, and not just Steve Spagnuolo, but the position coaches, Joe Cullen on the defensive line, Dave Merritt in the secondary. Everything lines up to me for us to talk about this next year's Chiefs defense as an even better one than last year's. And that's even with losing a guy who should have been an All-Pro and losing a guy who was a multi-year starter at linebacker and losing a veteran guy who was a really stabilizing force in the secondary in Mike Edwards. It's amazing also to think that's all that was lost off of this defense. Everything else, only 19% of your snaps, 81% of your defensive snaps are coming back next year. And a lot of them are really young and really talented and really athletic players.
And I think that's the good thing about getting guys that play key roles that aren't, I don't know the word, like you don't have very many guys that are the star guy like L'Jarius Sneed was that would have needed a lot of money to be back with the team if they were to re-sign him. You have a lot of guys that just play singular roles or young guys that are coming up because of how good they draft a secondary.
There's no better value than young players on rookie contracts. And this is true across
or rolling one-year deals.
This is true across all sports. Young players on rookie contracts performing at levels that outdo the money that they're making. The Chiefs on defense, who's got the big cap hit? Chris Jones and I get Justin Reed. I think he's got the second highest cap hit of anybody on the defense. It's either him or Omenahu. I don't know how the dollars work, but like those are the guys who signed free agent deals or second, third contracts that are big numbers.
Chris Jones and Justin Reed, and then Mike Dana.
Yeah, Mike Dana's got the third highest cap hit on this defense.
Yeah.
Think about that. Right? When you're getting a second-year corner playing at an all-pro level in Trent McDuffie, when you're getting a second-year defensive end as a double-digit sack guy, when you're developing third-day draft picks to be starting caliber players in the league, that is what gives you the opportunity to be one of the truly elite defenses in the league. I'm not ready, like our friend Tyler in the YouTube comments, to call it the best defense ever. But do I think this defense can be better than last year's defense, which was the best defense Mahomes has ever had? Yeah, I do. I'm right there. We're going to talk to Matt Derrick about that in just a little bit. But first, we're going to take a break, come back, and play On Second Thought. It's not really a game. It's more of a mea culpa, apologizing for some bad takes or some misdirection we may have had. That's coming up on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Time for the part of the show every Friday where we look back at something we may have gotten wrong. We say several things on the air on a weekly basis. We say lots of things. We say generally 20 hours, give or take, worth of things. Some of them are bound to be incorrect. That's what On Second Thought is for on Friday afternoon. So Spencer, I'm going to let you go first. What is your On Second Thought for the week?
I teased this on yesterday's show.
Okay.
Wednesday. Was it Wednesday? Yes. Sorry, short week. Trying to make sure I said the day that I said it. My final word was that the Royals were going to get 2 straight wins by the time we talked the next day, which was later yesterday because they played an afternoon game. Well, I didn't take into account the bullpen blowing the lead in yesterday's game. So my on second thought was the bullpen blowing yesterday's lead. That would have been 2 wins in a row from the time we got off the air Wednesday to getting on Thursday.
Yeah, it would have really changed the tenor of that whole road trip. I mean, 3 and 4 isn't terrible, like we talked about. 4 and 3 is a great road trip.
Yeah.
Like that's the swing, right? Like 3 and 4 is that's unfortunate. 4 and 3, you feel great. You come at any winning road trip is a good one. You go 4 and 3 every week, and if the Royals go 4 and 3 every week from here on out, I will see everybody for Game 1 of the American League Division Series at Kauffman Stadium. Like that's just what it's going to be. So, yeah, really unfortunate they couldn't bring that one home on Thursday afternoon. My on second thought, I earlier this season said that Cleveland's off to a hot start, but they'll cool off. They've already lost Shane Bieber for the season. I don't think Cleveland's going to keep doing this. Cleveland keeps doing this, even though they did just lose 2 out of 3 to the wretched Colorado Rockies in Denver. They still went 4 and 2 on their road trip. They're back home this weekend for 3 in the Spencer Dupuis Bowl against the Washington Nationals.
Tonight, the Guardians have like a 99.9% chance to win with Patrick Corbin on the bump.
Your boy Patrick Corbin on the mound.
But then the rest of the weekend, I think the Nationals could take 2 out of 3 if their offense comes alive because they have like the second or third best pitching staff if you take out Corbin in the National League.
Royals fans would love to see it. No, the Guardians keep doing this behind the bullpen with the best ERA of any bullpen in baseball. Behind basically 3 good hitters, although they are getting a 4th off of the injured list today. Stephen Kwan is being activated for this weekend series. That's a big return for the Guardians. Kwan missed a month with I believe it was a quad injury. They keep doing it. And I still have some reasons for skepticism regarding their starting pitching staff. Like I think their pitching rotation is still probably short a guy or 2. And I worry about long-term burnout for their bullpen. But I have at least been wrong to this point about the Cleveland Guardians.
I think it's kind of funny how this has happened with another team. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the Nationals, the Rockies / the Cubs always seem to play one team around the same time the Royals are playing them.
Yeah, it is.
It's happened at least one other time this season so far.
It has. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk to Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider of ChiefsDigest.com. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. We go to Kansas City to speak with our good pal Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He is our Chiefs insider, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline today and every Friday on 580 Sports Talk. Again, find Matt's work at ChiefsDigest.com and check him out on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Matt, right now, the Chiefs are making their White House visits. They are there as a team today. Have you ever been to Washington, D.C., Matt Derrick?
I have I've been on the White House tour, not like, I haven't been a fancy, guest like the Chiefs have and everything, but that was pretty exciting stuff.
You have not gotten to stand on a podium while the president makes a speech about how good you are at football. That was not part of the tour.
Haven't been up that alley. The only thing I managed to pull off was what I thought was a pretty funny joke, and that the people behind us in line said, "Hey, would you mind taking our picture?" And I took my camera and took their picture. And it turned out they wanted me to take a picture with their camera.
Ah, yeah, that common mistake happens all the time. Matt Derrick is our guest. Go ahead, Matt.
I thought it was funny, but nobody else did.
Yeah, Matt, I think it's funny for whatever it's worth. I wasn't there, but I would have laughed. I would have sold the gag. No worries there. Matt, if the Chiefs would like to be there next year for a third straight visit to the White House after a third straight Super Bowl championship, it will require a high level of play from the defense. And we were just talking earlier this hour, Spencer and I, about the possibility of further improvement for a Chiefs defense that has only lost 18.75% of the total snaps played from last season. Only 4 players who played any snaps at all are not coming back, at least right now, to next year's defense. In your mind, if the Chiefs defense is to make a step forward next year and play even better at an even higher level than it did, what is the most important factor in that improvement?
I mean, to me, I think you're right. It's the defense. I mean, certainly offensively, this team needs to be better than it was last year. That's where they have the most opportunity to gain ground. The reality is that there's a better than even chance that this team isn't going to be as good defensively as it was last year. They were the number 2 scoring defense in the league. I mean, you don't get much better than that. I mean, it's going to be tough. And and Steve Spagnuolo said yesterday, there's no guarantees that they're going to be able to replicate what they did last year. They're going to have to have a really good year. I mean, they're going to have to go back to the grindstone and replicate a lot of things. And because that continuity can come with some good and some bad. Oftentimes, in the NFL, if you want to stay on your edge, I mean, you need turnover. You need to be able to get younger. You need to be able to get faster and stronger. You need to have a certain amount of turnover just to stay on that edge. I think you almost need it from a competitive standpoint to keep people on their toes. And, so that's the challenge, is how do you make sure that, a team that brings back so much production from last year that they still feel hungry, that they still have that edge. And I think that's going to be, Steve Spagnuolo's toughest thing. I mean, and in reality, in this run that the Chiefs have been on, the defense has typically been pretty good. I mean, I was just looking at it because, some of the players were talking about Spagnuolo, have given him the example of, that he once had a defense that was really good, and then the next year, they kind of fell apart. And I can only assume that he was talking about 2016, 2017 in New York. That was kind of exactly what happened to them. But this has been the best stretch as a defensive coordinator that Steve Spagnuolo has had. And the Chiefs defensively every year have generally been pretty good. I mean, their worst year they've been ranked defensively in this stretch since 2019 was, last year, 2022, when they were 16th in the league in scoring. I mean, this defense, that's all it needs to be. I mean, it's a top 10, top 12 defense. They're going to be competitive for a Super Bowl.
Strictly speaking, from a personnel standpoint, if this defense does maintain or even exceed its 2023 level of performance in 2024, which player or players do you think it's most important take strides forward? How big do those strides need to be for whichever players you're thinking of?
That's a really good question, because, I mean, I think there's it's really to a certain degree is how much more production can you get out of certain guys. I mean, you're not asking Chris Jones to be better than he is. He's already there. I'm not even sure you can ask to have a Trent McDuffie. I mean, I feel like he's kind of already there too. I think you're probably, to a certain degree. I mean, the guy that I might be really looking at is George Karlaftis, and yet he had a really good year last year too. I mean, it's not necessarily you can have a whole lot for a whole lot, but if Karlaftis were to have like a Pro Bowl year this year, and have that kind of caliber year, then I mean that's one guy for sure that I think you'd be saying to yourself, okay, this is going to be a really productive defense this year. There's others as well. I mean, I think the Chiefs are absolutely going to lean on Shamari Connor a lot this year, and he was a good player last year, but I think they're going to ask more of him. So maybe that's another guy, because I even with Brian Cook coming back, I think they may be protecting him a little bit early on in the season. And I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, Connor is somebody that they're going to ask to play multiple positions and play maybe a lot more nickel corner than he did last year. So I think those two guys, I mean, to me, Karlaftis is kind of one that I think is at the top of the list. If he becomes a team leader and he becomes a guy that has a big double digits kind of sack season, is one of the top rushers in the league, then you're in pretty good shape. And if a guy like Shamari Connor is able to handle the role that the Chiefs are going to give to him, then yeah, I think that's another guy that's going to be key to taking a step forward.
I am getting more and more excited about the possibilities of Shamari Connor, given the way that his coaches and his teammates talk about him entering his second full season. I do not think it would be fair to put expectations on him to play like L'Jarius Sneed did last year, which was, to me, an all-pro level. I thought he got snubbed. But do you think that there's a possibility that what Connor is in year two maybe looks a little bit like what year two L'Jarius Sneed was, where he started to really become a weapon in the slot and a weapon in the blitzing game?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, that's why I think evolution-wise that you would like to kind of get get right now out of Connor is to see that kind of step that maybe he is kind of where L'Jarius Sneed was in year two. You're right. I mean, you can't ask him to necessarily take that giant step where I think absolutely L'Jarius Sneed was one of the top 5 corners in the league last year. And, but what are you asking Shamari Connor to be? I mean, you're just asking him to be somebody that's just a very reliable player in the slot. That in and of itself would be a huge step towards, giving you a little bit of the production that you're losing with Sneed. And, and that's going to be tough. And, we've been talking to, yesterday we were talking with Spagnuolo and Dave Merritt about, how they're going to fill that hole with L'Jarius Sneed, and a lot of the focus I think is going to be on the slot, because Trent McDuffie is going to be asked to play a lot more outside. I think there's a pretty good chance the Chiefs may ask him at times to travel with some of the better receivers in the league. And so whether it's Connor or Nick Jones, who seem to be the two guys who are talking about the most in the slot, I think that's huge. And there's no doubt. I mean, the Chiefs feel like Connor can handle playing multiple roles, and they're going to ask him to do it.
We're joined by our Chiefs insider, Matt Derrick, on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. And Matt, a guy that plays defense at a high level for the Chiefs is might be making kind of an addition to what he's able to do this year. And it was talked about yesterday by Dave Tobe, was Justin Reed. He could have a big time spot in the new kickoff, the way the rules have been changed.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, the kickoff rule in itself is going to make that play so much more exciting than it has been. And honestly, I mean, I think it's going to look more almost like a scrimmage play than a kickoff play, just because of how close the players are going to be lined up. I mean, the kicker is going to be off on an island by himself on the back end, and everybody else is going to be lined up, in a pretty short area on the other side of the field. And, you're not going to have that full sprint downfield where players are getting a head start. I mean, it's going to be kind of more like a scrimmage play. And Dave Tobe was talking about maybe having a more of a running back style as your returners and maybe receiver types because of the change in the blocking and how the plays are going to be set up. And, the kickoff is going to be pretty crucial, and who you're going to have from the back end of your defense is going to be pretty crucial, because if it's true, like Dave Tope said, that, because sometimes Dave will throw out some numbers that, bears some fact checking, but when he said that, when they looked at the XFL and, that 25 to 40% of the kickoffs using this very similar rule had the kicker playing some role in the tackle. I mean, if that's the case and you're the Chiefs and you can have that actual defender on the field rather than Harrison Butker, I mean, that could be huge to maybe stopping some plays and making sure that you don't give up some touchdowns. Because I absolutely do think that there's going to be more scoring on these kickoff plays. If you get past the first line of defense, there's a really good chance that you're going to have some big plays.
Another player that could be involved in that is a guy, the international pathway programs, and Louis Rees-Zammit. He could have multiple roles on special teams this year.
Yeah, he really could. I mean, they're giving him a lot of reps right now as a returner. That's kind of one of his best, and I think he'd be best suited as far as the kick return team goes. I mean, asking him to block, I think, is a tougher role. Although honestly, I mean, if he's going to be a returner, there's going to be times he probably will have to block, because the kickoff is going to be strategic. I mean, you're going to try and sometimes kick away from certain players and maybe kick to the other guy that's lined up on the back end as a returner. And if Louis Rees-Zammit is as fast and quick and as we think that he can be on the field, I mean, I can see why teams would be kicking away from him, and maybe he does turn into more of a blocker. But I've been really impressed with how quickly he seems to be picking up things, and Dave Tope said the same thing. I think there's absolutely a chance on special teams that he can be an integral player. And watching him kick off yesterday, honestly, I mean, he's just about as good as Justin Reed. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of difference between the two of them. I was really impressed, and I mean, and he should. I mean, kicking is a part of the game in rugby, so he's done that thing before. He's a very athletic kid, though. I mean, that's a big part of it. So I think there's a lot of things that he can do. And tackling, he might not be as good as Justin Reed, though, so that might be the one drawback. But I think of all the things that he could be asked to do on special teams, blocking, I think, would be a lot more tricky than tackling. I think he could probably pick that up a little bit faster.
And final question here from me. You spoke with Andy Heck, the offensive line coach for the Chiefs, about the position battle there at left tackle. He says it's wide open. You mentioned Kingsley Suamataia and Wanya Morris, but he also, which you mentioned before, continues to bring in an undrafted free agent into the conversation, Ethan Driscoll. What has that left tackle position kind of been like, what you've been able to see?
Yeah, it's been intriguing, especially yesterday, because, as kind of, Heck mentioned, that as a reward for good play, which is kind of an odd thing to say. I mean, they had Chu Godric, lined up at left tackle with the first team offense yesterday, and that kind of threw us all for a loop. I mean, this is right now. I mean, it is wide open. It absolutely looks like it, that anybody could win that job. And Heck mentioned that, hey, Suamadia and Wanya Morris have the leg up. They would be the most likely candidates. But I'll be honest. I mean, when I see Godric playing left tackle, and this is no knock on Chu Godric, because obviously I think there's a lot of upside with him. But if the Chiefs or if that's what they're considering right now, I'd have to think they're also considering Donovan Smith. And I'm just wondering if the Chiefs are what they've seen through 6 OTA practices. Maybe they're thinking to themselves, wait a minute, maybe we need to think about another option here, because I feel like if this was Wanya Morris or Kingsley Suamatia's job to take, I think one of them would have been lined up at left tackle yesterday. And so I'm not sure what's going on there, but there's no doubt. I mean, I think it absolutely is wide open, and any number of players I think could win that job, unless the Chiefs consider an outside option. And Donovan Smith, I think, is still in the conversation.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Matt, we'll close with this. We were looking at NFL.com's list of the most underappreciated Chiefs players, and Spencer and I both agreed there's a lot of ways you can answer a question like that in general, but I think a question like that as it pertains to the Chiefs, who obviously they have their elite guys, but behind them, there are a whole lot of guys who just make things work for the Chiefs in whatever role that they're asked to play. So we'll put the question to you here, Matt. Who is the most underappreciated member of this Chiefs roster?
Yeah, it is really a great question. And I know I saw that. I can't remember who that they picked for the Chiefs.
They picked Drew Tranquil. They picked Tranquil.
And that's a good answer. I mean, I would probably, if he hadn't had the injury last year, I would probably say Nick Bolton. But then again, Chiefs kind of showed last year they can win without Nick. I'll ignore, even though I think that some guys, I'm still not sure that Chris Jones gets all the appreciation he truly deserves, but I think he's getting a lot more now, obviously getting paid like it. The first guys that come to my mind, even though one that he does get a lot of the recognition, is Creed Humphrey. I mean, he's so good at what he does that I think he probably just deserves a little bit more recognition for being even better. But Trey Smith is one that jumps out on offensive. Probably the guy that I would say on the offensive side. Defensively, I definitely don't think that Justin Reed gets enough credit for his role on this team. I would probably say those two are at the top of my list, and forced to choose which one, I think I'd say Justin Reed, because that guy is a tremendous leader. I think he is a huge part of their defensive success. Maybe the Chiefs will be fine without Justin Reed. Maybe we'll find out next year if they don't bring him back. But I think both those guys, but Justin Reed for sure, I think is somebody who definitely deserves to get a lot more recognition, especially when you consider how much recognition that Tyrann Mathieu got. I think Justin Reed's been almost just as valuable as Matthew's been.
Matt Derrick covers the Chiefs so well at ChiefsDigest.com, and we always love having him on Fridays here on 580 Sports Talk as our Chiefs insider. Again, check out his work, ChiefsDigest.com. Matt, always a pleasure to speak with you. We look forward to doing it again next week.
As always, take care, guys. Talk to you later.
That is Matt Derrick. That is a wrap on this 3 o'clock hour. We're going to play Is It Good? MLB Edition to kick off the 4 o'clock hour at 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 3, 580 Sports Talk on a Friday. Hope you are enjoying the tail end of your work week if you work the traditional Monday to Friday 9 to 5. But even if you're not, even if you're maybe just getting started with your work day or you're working a weekend shift, whatever, I don't care what you do as long as what you're doing is listening to us. We appreciate you. Whether you're listening on AM 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or on our live video stream on our YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk, Facebook, WIBW News, Twitter, 580 Sports Talk. Thank you for consuming the program today. We're glad that you're a part of it. I'm Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis is across the table from me. Trenton Kraxner is across the glass from us. Brendan Brzezinski is gallivanting across the American West. He'll be back in 10 days. He'll be back 2 Mondays from today when I will probably not be around. I am going to take some paternity leave. When? Great question.
Yeah.
Baby's due Tuesday. My wife and I are both pretty punctual people, generally speaking. I don't know that that has anything to do with when baby is going to arrive. The old adage, I don't know if it's an old wives' tale or not. The adage is that the first one, and this is our first, the first one is always later than expected. I don't know how true that is. If anybody would like to share a story of a baby actually arriving on the due date, hit us up in the YouTube comments or on the text line, 785-272-9429.
My buddy's sister just had a baby last week, and he went down. She lives in Georgia. He's still in West Virginia. And the baby was due on a Monday. He went down the Wednesday before.
Okay. So he was early.
He was early. No, the baby didn't come until a week later from that.
Oh,
so he was there for about 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he was early. Baby took his time.
Yes.
Baby took its sweet time. Okay.
But I thought it was funny yesterday when you were leaving and Brendan was leaving. You were like, hey, I don't know when I'll see you again.
No, like to Brendan, that's very true.
Yeah.
Like I do not know. It could be a week before baby Lucero graces us with his presence. It could happen this afternoon. Like my wife is she went up to her parents' house. She's from Meriden, and she went up to watch a movie with her mom that they both wanted to watch, and said, yeah, so if anything happens, my folks will drive me to the hospital and you can meet me there. I said, oh, we have to have those contingency plans. Like we have to be ready at the drop of a hat to get on over to the hospital.
I've been like in my head, I've been talking to my girlfriend and I'm like, well, I guess at some point Dan might just look down at his phone and he's like, turns off his mic, looks at me, goes, hey, I got to go run the rest of the show.
Yes, very true.
Yeah.
I'm
prepared I had to get myself prepared for that.
Thank goodness. I'm glad I did not have to prod you into getting appropriately prepared for the show, because that is a very real possibility.
Yeah.
As anyone who has children, I'm sure knows, you can't necessarily predict when the wheels are going to start in motion. But no, obviously my wife and I are really excited, and paternity leave is imminent for me. But as long as you hear me at 2:00, that means the intent is that I'm going to be here for the whole day. So I intend to be here on Monday. I might not be, but I intend to be. That's how I'll explain that. We appreciate you being with us here on 580 Sports Talk today. Mentioned the Top City Mineral Supply text line, 785-272-9429. Also the YouTube/Facebook/Twitter live chat window. Interact with other listeners and send us your comments, and we appreciate those throughout the program. We had a listener, Jason, ask us in the YouTube comments, can you explain the new kickoff rules? Yes, we can, but I'm going to make sure that I get them exactly right too. So the kickoff is going to move from the 30. It's going to stay at the 35-yard line, but all the kicking team's players, instead of lining up behind the kicker and getting a running start, and that's the line of scrimmage, and you can't cross the line of scrimmage until the ball is kicked, all of the kicking team's players, except the kicker, are going to line up on the opposite 40-yard line. So they're going to line up, that would be 25 yards down the field. And the receiving team will line up in a zone between the 35 and the 30-yard line with at least 9 of its players. And you can have 1 or 2 players back behind that area to catch the kickoff. So the effect is it's almost like a play from scrimmage where the setup zone gives a 5 to 10 yard buffer between the kicking team, the coverage team, and the receiving team. And then once the kick is touched, then everybody can go. So you're just waiting for the kick to, I think it's either, I'm looking here, any kick that hits, there's a landing zone between the 20 and the goal line. Lots of new terminology we're going to have to learn.
Yeah.
Any kick that hits in the landing zone must be returned. And as soon as the kick is caught, then the coverage team can start down the field. The return team can engage the kick return team, and the returner can make their way down the field as far as possible. If you've watched any XFL kickoffs, maybe YouTube would be the best place to show an explanation of that. But that is the new rule, is that it will not be just a full-on sprint down the field by the kickoff team. There will be instead an area of engagement where the return team and the coverage team meet, set up blocks, and the effect is it almost looks more like a play from scrimmage than it does a kickoff return,
which is
the traditional kickoff return.
Which is why I could see how effective potentially Louis Rees-Zammit could be if you go watch some of his rugby highlights.
Yeah, it will be a little bit more like a rugby play in some ways. So there could be an advantage there. Speaking of the Chiefs, they're at the White House today. They are all in attendance, and we have some audio of an interaction between President Biden and the real president, Travis Kelce. Here is what that sounded like. This is per the New Heights Twitter account, at New Heights Show on Twitter. Oh, that's
the text sound.
Yeah, we just got a text asking a question from the 913. Wow, that was nice and interactive. What's the penalty for a kickoff out of bounds? I believe it remains the same. Yeah, it's the same penalty. The ball would be spotted at the 40-yard line, and the offensive team would start with the ball. Anyway, here is the interaction. Again, Chiefs back at the White House for a second year in a row. This is what it sounded like.
But I'd have Travis come up here, but God only knows what he said. Travis, come here. It's all yours, pal.
My fellow Americans, it's nice to see you all yet again. I'm not going to lie, President Biden, they told me if I came up here, I'd get tased, so I'm going to go back to my spot, all right?
Was that last year that he did something similar?
Yeah, so he snuck up. The gathering was dissipating last year.
Yeah.
And he kind of tiptoed over to the podium.
And then Patrick had to come over and pull him back.
Mahomes came over and exaggeratedly pulled him away from the podium.
As if he was like a Secret Service agent.
Yes. Yeah. It was a very funny moment. And yes, President Biden alluding to that today, and Travis Kelce saying they told me they would tase me if I got too close. Do I think they actually did? Maybe. They really might have. So, fun little moment there with the Chiefs at the White House today. Anyhow, coming up later on this hour, we're going to crown a May champion in What Is Wrong With You. We're down to 2 stories, the suspended license and the bite and run. We're also going to talk a little bit about the latest from the college basketball transfer portal, including a big visit, pun definitely intended, for Kansas State. A discussion about Arthur Kaluma and how urgent it is, or maybe how urgent it isn't, that K-State bring back Arthur Kaluma. And a look at our friend C.J. Moore's too early top 25. He's more bearish on KU than most people I have seen. And we'll talk about why that might be the case. But first, every now and again on the program, we do a little game in which we take a look at sports things and we ask an important question about them. Are these things any good? With 2 months elapsed in the Major League Baseball season, I felt it was an appropriate time to bring it back. So today, we are bringing it back. It is our first Major League Baseball edition of the season. Ladies and gentlemen, it's everyone's favorite game. Is it good? Thank you, Trent. Thank you. Oh, wait. Smash cut. Okay. No, you take it all the way down. We're good. That's the theme song. Is it good? Did you throw your phone? What happened over there?
No, I had my phone up against here and I went to pick it up and it hit the.
You just got excited. It's okay. It happens. It's time for Is It Good? Major League Baseball edition. First topic. Is it good the Kansas City Royals. Spencer, go first.
Amazing.
Amazing.
It's great.
It's great.
It's way over expectations.
It's fun.
Highly above expected.
It's entertaining. It's beyond, as you said, preseason expectations. Like I said at the top, the Royals are not 35-23 by accident. Like, they are not 35-23 because of their schedule or because of some flukes or because of an unsustainable run of success in one-run games. The Royals have the second best run differential in the American League. And run differential tends over time to be pretty predictive.
Yeah.
As far as who is good and who is not. Like, the best run differential in the American League, the Yankees. The third best run differential in the American League, the Guardians. The second best is the Kansas City Royals. So what they have done to date is real and suggests that they are in fact good. Now,
yeah. Hey, the boys are just playing some ball.
That is what is happening. The boys, the ball that the boys are playing is in fact good.
Yes.
So we will stamp it. The Kansas City Royals, yes, in fact, it is good. How about the team the Royals are playing this weekend? The San Diego Padres. Is it good? 30-29 on the year. A team that missed the postseason last year, made some moves in the offseason, got rid of Juan Soto, but traded for Dylan Cease. The Padres, as I mentioned, one game over 500, +5 run differential, so they've played about to their record. Their best hitter right now is 31-year-old Jurickson Profar, off to the best start of his career. Although Luis Arraez has been tremendous since they acquired him. Jake Cronenworth's having a bounce-back year. And I would say that their pitching staff, although they are just 6th in the National League in ERA, is in fact good. They are tops in the NL in strikeouts. Their closer, Robert Suarez, throws one pitch. He throws one pitch. It's a 4-seam fastball. And it's just really good. And that's all he needs to throw. He's got 16 saves and a .73 earned run average. I am inclined to believe that the Padres are good. I don't think they are great. I don't think they are a serious threat in the National League West by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think they're probably a playoff team in the National League. I will say that they are good, and as such will be a good test for a good Royals team.
Yeah. I mean, I know they're out west, so like I just don't get a chance to watch them.
Well, you're one time zone closer now. You can stay up a little later for some 9:05.
When are they on TV
pitches.
though? That's the problem with like the NBA, the NHL, and the MLB is like I can watch almost whatever the good games are, the great teams are every week for the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's just one, there's so many games, and two, where do I find the game? So
yeah, they don't get on TV a lot. Remember when Fernando Tatis Jr. was going to be the face of baseball, and then he pissed hot and hasn't been the same player since he tested positive for steroids?
Didn't they also switch his position?
Yes. So they moved into right field, and he's legitimately excellent in right field. He won the Platinum Glove last year in the National League. Like, he's an outstanding defensive outfielder, but he's hitting just 249 with a 410 slug. Just kind of an okay hitter. Like, he's not a bad hitter by any means, but
he's not the guy.
Not like the face of baseball. And I think a lot of that shine has dulled. Also, Manny Machado's off to a really slow start too. I got to believe that he'll get rolling eventually.
Bogarts is on the injured list.
Yeah, Bogarts, he may miss a long time. He wasn't really hitting when he was out there. So at least that clears a spot at second base for Luis Arraez, who's not a great defensive second baseman, but they can at least play him there every day. Yeah, I think they're good-ish. I feel more confident saying the Royals are good than I do saying that the Padres are good. But we'll find out this weekend at the K when they play each other for 3 games. Next topic. Is it good? The Cleveland Guardians offense. The Guardians on the year hitting just 239. That's middle of the pack in the American League. But their 316 on base percentage as a team ranks 3rd in the junior circuit. They're slugging an even 400. That's 5th in the AL. And that all turns out to a 715 on base plus slugging, which is, again, 5th in the American League. They are 6th in the league in home runs. They are very much driven by the guys who have been their 3 best hitters. That's Jose Ramirez, who, like, maybe it's just because people take it for granted now. That's future Hall of Famer Jose Ramirez.
Yeah.
16 home runs, 56 RBI. He had like 30 RBI, has 30 RBI in the month of May. Just having a stupid hot month. Josh Naylor's got 15 dingers and a .515 slugging percentage. And David Fry has come out of absolutely nowhere to hit 353 with a team best 1.093 on base plus slugging. Those have been the guys carrying the offense, and they get Stephen Kwan back too, who was hitting 353 when he got hurt a month ago.
Yeah, they're also tied for 6th with stolen bases, so they're probably getting guys in a scoring position.
They are a running club under first-year manager Stephen Vogt. I think it's a good offense, even if it's just. I guess it probably depends on the way you look at the Guardians' offense. Probably how you look at the Royals' offense, right?
Yeah.
Because the Royals are very similar in that the best guys are hitting great and carrying the group despite some middling performances from other guys. Like their everyday catcher, Bo Naylor's not hitting a lick. Kyle Manzardo, who was a big prospect that they called up when Kwan got hurt to play some first base and DH. He's hitting a pretty empty 232, doesn't have a home run. They just DFA'd Estevan Florial, who had 111 plate appearances. They DFA'd him today to make room for Kwan. But their best guys have been really good. I will say this. I like the Royals lineup better because I tend to think that positive regression for guys like Nelson Velasquez and MJ Melendez is more likely than seeing Tyler Freeman or the former K-State Wildcat Will Brennan all of a sudden break out offensively. Like I think there's more likely to be more depth for the Royals in the long run than there is for the Guardians, which is why I think the Royals are going to hang in the race all year.
Yeah.
That's it? Yeah?
I mean, it's the Guardians. I don't got a lot to say about them.
That's fair enough. 16 dingers for Jose Ramirez, and 15 for Josh Naylor. Royals don't have anybody hitting the ball that far. They are 6th in the league, Cleveland, in home runs. Royals are 11th in the league in home runs.
See, I would be a little bit more in on the Guardians if they called up like their top prospect.
Is he a former Marshall Thundering Herdsman by chance?
No, he is West Virginian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Chase DeLauder.
Chase DeLauder. That's
currently in AAA, but he's probably going to come up next year.
Somebody kept trying to trade him to me in our my fantasy dynasty league, and he wanted Taj Bradley, and I wasn't willing to come up off of Taj Bradley for the Rays, so deal never got done. Maybe there's a chance for him to make an impact in that outfield. I mean, Freeman and Brennan have been just kind of okay. Brennan does have 5 home runs, and I'm sure it's been nice to see a KC kid, went to Blue Valley High, K-Stater, produce in that Guardians offense. But like I said, I think there's a little more ceiling for the back end of the lineup for the Royals than there is for the Guardians over the long haul.
Yeah.
Is it good? The Seattle Mariners, first place in the American League West, winners of 2 out of 3 over the Royals earlier this month in a series in Seattle. But at 31-27, the Mariners actually have a negative run differential. They have scored 7 fewer runs than they have allowed, and they haven't allowed a lot of runs. They're 6th in the American League in earned run average. They have an outstanding starting pitching staff, one of the best in baseball, right up there with Kansas City's. But it is not a great lineup. Their best hitter right now is a gentleman named Dylan Moore. In terms of OPS, he is the team leader despite a 229 batting average. So The Mariners, they good, Spencer?
Well, I actually got to watch them play last Saturday in person on location in DC when they were at Nats Park.
This is an eyewitness. Is it good reporting
in a loss for them where they got like 5 hit in the game. They just couldn't have any hits, and Logan Gilbert wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. I mean, he wasn't too bad himself. It was just timely things that they weren't able to do. I think they're okay.
They're just okay. Kind of an average-ish team. Like this is what they are. They shouldn't expect a second half breakout.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So the one reason that I would have to be, I guess 2 reasons, optimistic about the Mariners. Number one, I really do love their starting pitching. I think all of those guys, Gilbert, Luis Castillo, Bryce Miller, and George Kirby, I think they're all legitimately excellent. George Kirby in 68 1/3 innings, 65 strikeouts, 6 walks. I love that so much. That's real pitching. Love that from George Kirby. Brian Woo's got a 1.66 ERA as their number 5 starter. Andres Munoz, one of the best closers in the game. I think they can really pitch. I don't think they need a ton of offense, and I think they can expect to get more because I don't think Julio Rodriguez is going to slug 342 all season.
I'm kind of out on their pitching. I say that because one of the Nats, I guess, potential best players, but also hasn't had a great season at all. Keibert Ruiz finally got out of his slump against them. I think he had 5 or 6 hits in the series. He couldn't hit a lick for the last month and a half, and he had like 6 hits in 3 games. So I'm out on their pitching staff just because a guy,
fair enough.
Just because a guy that has had a bad season got 6 hits off of the staff.
Fair enough. I think Julio Rodriguez is going to get going. He was awesome in the second half last year. I think this slow start is just maybe he's one of those players that warms up with the weather. They're 14th out of 15 teams in the American League in OPS, but they're in the middle of the pack in home runs. So I think there's some improvement to be made. I do think they're going to end up winning the West because I do believe in their starting pitching and the back end of their bullpen, and I think they'll get enough offense to be the best of that lot. Speaking of the American League West, our last one here, is it good? The 2 teams that played in the World Series last year, neither of them has a winning record to date. The Texas Rangers are 27-29. They have scored 1 more run than they've allowed this year. The Arizona Diamondbacks are 25-31 with a -5 run differential. Are either of those teams good, Spencer?
No,
you're out.
I'm out.
So with Texas, I'm holding. I'm not going to make any. I know the whole point is to answer affirmatively or negatively on is it good, but I don't think I can do that with the Texas Rangers because I think they've been so beaten up. Their starting pitching rotation right this second, they just got Nate Eovaldi back, but they're missing John Gray, who had been their best starting pitcher to date. Eventually, they're going to get Max Scherzer. Eventually, they might even get Jacob deGrom.
Yeah.
And if they get those guys back, then I think, they're going to be pretty good.
I totally forgot they had those players. And
I understand. We haven't seen hide nor hair of those guys this year.
Now I'm going to change my answer, and I'm going to kind of be with you. I say that because we just talked about the Mariners.
Mm-hmm.
They're 31-27. The Rangers 27-29. It's doable.
Oh, yeah.
It's doable for them to win that division if they can get those guys back and they can be productive. And the bats take a big jump.
They've got to get healthy. That, I think, is the biggest thing for the Rangers. The Diamondbacks were only an 84-win team last year. They made some additions to their pitching staff, but Jordan Montgomery's just been okay in 7 starts. And who was the other guy they added? Eduardo Rodriguez. He hasn't pitched. They added him, and he hasn't gotten on the mound yet this season. Their MVP candidate, Corbin Carroll, as a rookie last year, Rookie of the Year, hitting 191 with a 563 OPS. I got to believe there's a bounce back in him at some point, but I don't think the Diamondbacks are good because I didn't think they were good last year.
Yeah.
I think they were an 84-win team that got outscored and caught a 1-month heater. So, no, I actually don't think the Diamondbacks are good. I am willing to stake my claim on that. They are not good. The Rangers might be good. That's too wishy-washy for is it good? But that's the best I can give you for now. That has been a rousing round of Is It Good Major League Baseball edition.
Are we just not going to address the last one?
No, we got to get to what is wrong with you. We got to get to what is wrong with you. Do you want to address this one?
Yeah.
You do? Okay, let's get to it then. All right, we'll do what is wrong with you in just a second. But I did have one other one that I thought we could get to, so let's get to it real quick. The Braves without Ronald Acuna, are they still good?
No.
Okay.
I can affirmatively say that because they just lost 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 to the Nats.
They did.
Yeah.
The Nats were out there looking like the early 70s Orioles.
Yeah, like that rebuild is working, but I thought the Braves may have had a chance even without Acuna, but that just goes to tell me if they're going to do that against the Nationals, who aren't going to be good for a couple more years, they might as well pack their bags now and not be prepared to play.
I picked the Braves to win the World Series before the season started.
Before Acuna got hurt.
It sucks so much that Ronald Acuna is hurt again. What an unbelievably talented player. And this is now 2 seasons that have been completely wiped out because of ACL injuries. And that's a bummer for baseball.
They are a plus 38 right now.
They are no longer the team I would expect to win the National League. I think that's probably the Dodgers right now with Philadelphia right behind.
Yep.
But I still think they're good. I think they're a playoff team. I still think they can cause some trouble in the playoffs, especially if they can get Chris Sale to the postseason healthy. They're going to have to encase him in bubble wrap soon to make that happen, probably. But he's been awesome in 10 starts and might still have something left in the tank if they can get him to October. So I say the Braves without Acuna, still good, although not the National League favorites in my mind anymore. That has been a rousing round of Is It Good? All participants will receive a copy of the home game. In the meantime, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will crown a May champion of What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. It is time for the fifth time this calendar year, 2024, to crown a monthly champion. What is Wrong With You monthly championship for the month of May here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Spencer, Trenton with you, the esteemed panel of judges who will take part in crowning a champion. We are down to just two of our weekly winners from this month,
which was a great month.
It was
for stupidity.
Really good month for What Is Wrong With You. And we've got two stories to relive, and we will crown a champion. I will start with the story that we have dubbed the bite and run. 62-year-old Ronald Brodus facing petty theft charges after taking a bite out of a slice of pizza and refusing to pay at a racetrack gas station in Flagler County, Florida. He allegedly took the bite out of the slice of pizza and then left the store without paying. An employee confronted Brodus, who claimed that he had paid for the item. One way to do it, right? Nah, you didn't pay for that. Yes, I did. The situation escalated when Brodus allegedly threw away the pizza and ice cream he'd taken. Did he take one bite of the ice cream? And threatened the employee before fleeing the store on his bicycle. The employee told police he wished to press charges and have Brodus trespassed from the property. The stolen items totaled $8.98 before tax. Deputies located Brodus shortly thereafter and arrested him. Brodus told police a different version of events during questioning. The arrest affidavit details a bizarre threat made by Brodus, stating he planned to return to the gas station property despite being trespassed with the intention of defecating there. Hey, maybe he's lactose intolerant. You know, you have pizza, a bite of pizza and some ice cream, and you're lactose intolerant. Like, you're going to probably need to do that sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's what he was on about. He remained in custody at the time of the story. We do not have a follow-up on Mr. Brodus. But, showed up, took a bite out of a slice of pizza and sampled the wares and thought he could get out of there without paying $9 and change. And, in fact, he could not.
Look, just get a membership to a Costco or a Sam's Club and get some go around and get the free samples.
That's what I'm saying. For our second story, we're going to let the audio tell the story.
Yes.
Trenton, if you could pull up my computer again. This is the suspended license driver. You have probably, folks, seen this out and about. You have perhaps seen this on the internet, on Twitter, on social media. But in case you haven't, here is the audio of a gentleman appearing via Zoom again for the charge of driving with a suspended license.
People versus Corey Harris.
On behalf of Pittsfield Township.
Assistant Public Defender Natalie Tate for Mr. Harris, who should be present via Zoom.
Mr. Harris, are you driving?
Actually, I'm pulling into my doctor's office, actually. So just give me 1 second. I'm parking right now.
Wait.
The face of the judge is just
baffled.
Yeah.
Utter bafflement. He just tosses the pen to the
You
table.
stationary?
I'm pulling in right now at this second. Yes, I am.
All right. What are we doing?
Your Honor, we are respectfully requesting an adjournment in this matter, up possibly 2 to 4 weeks if the court would allow.
Judge offended.
Okay. So maybe I don't understand something. This is a driving while license suspended,
That is correct, Your Honor.
and he was just driving, and he didn't have a license.
Oh,
the
Those are
real
the charges, Your Honor, yes.
No, I'm looking at his
Yes.
record. He doesn't have a license. He's suspended and he's just driving.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Harris trying desperately to
come up with words.
He's utterly speechless, as is everybody involved here. The judge is making notes. Mr. Harris cannot.
hello?
There he is.
1 minute, Mr. Harris.
Chill, Mr. Harris. It's like he's scanning the radio, maybe there. He's got to have his tunes while he's driving illegally.
I don't even know why he would do that. So defendant's bond is revoked in this matter. Defendant is to turn himself into the Washington County Jail by 6 p.m. today. Failure to turn himself in will result in a bench warrant with no bond.
The realization by Harris.
The piece de resistance is Mr. Harris at the end of the clip going, oh my God, like he can't believe what he's done.
Yeah.
Like, dude, call an Uber. You don't have a license.
Or, if you're going to be that stupid, maybe like don't answer the call while you're driving. Just like, or maybe just don't turn the camera on yet. Like if you got to be a little smarter if you're going to break the law.
Yeah. Maybe you have to have the camera on. Maybe that's a requirement if you show up for court via Zoom. But yeah, man, the one thing you can't do is the crime that you're accused of doing.
Yes.
That you're going to court for while you're zooming into court. Like, you can't do it. It'd be like showing up on a drug charge and lighting up your crack pipe.
Yeah.
while the judge considers whether or not to allow for an adjournment.
I'm so glad this started to go viral, like right before What Is Wrong With You at like the 3:00 hour on Wednesday.
It is a fabulous story.
Yes.
And I think it is a very worthy monthly champion here on What Is Wrong With You.
Yeah, last second entry.
We've got some agreement from the YouTube live chat. Vance says this one wins. Joe says Mr. Harris wins.
Jeffrey, guilty beyond reasonable doubt.
Yes, I do. I think reasonable doubt is probably removed at this point. And I just love the realization for him really doesn't set in right away.
No.
When the judge asks him, "Are you driving?" and he gives that answer, like, I've done this before too. You've been on the phone with somebody when you're like pulling up somewhere, you're trying to meet with them, and you do that. I'm pulling in right now. I'm pulling into my parking space. He does that whole exaggerated voice, like I'm doing it, not realizing for whatever reason that what he was in fact doing was making matters a lot worse for him in the matter of the crime of driving with a suspended license.
Yeah.
It's a really good story. When we get around to December, this is going to be one I think that has the chance to make a deep run in our Tournament of Failed Champions. The driving with a suspended license, we'll have to come up with a more clever name for it. We got 7 months to do it because we'll see it again in December. It is our May champion of What Is Wrong With You. We'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, some transfer portal news for K-State basketball and a friend of the program who's not as enthusiastic about KU hoops for next season as many have been. We'll explain who that is and why next here on 580 WIBW. 446 on on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you? Really good month of What Is Wrong with You. I was just excited.
Yeah. Hey, I got a challenge. When you're gone, inevitably, if it's next week and we have like 3 shows where you're gone, Trenton, you gotta bring the goodness on What Is Wrong with You. You gotta bring the good stuff.
I think he's capable. He did What Is Wrong with You with me last Friday, and his story was very gross. His story involved a soiled adult diaper being thrown at somebody. It was really, really nasty. But you know what? Sometimes What Is Wrong with You gets a little gross.
Yeah.
So it's unavoidable. So I have faith, Trenton, in your ability to bring good What Is Wrong with You stories to the table, should you need to. The way it's going to work next week is with Brendan out the entire week. I'm probably going to be out at some point unless baby boy Lucero is enjoying the womb a little too much. We're going to have to get him out of there. He's going to have to come out one time or another. Can't stay in there forever, bud. So at some point, probably next week, it is imminent. So it might be 5 shows you guys have to handle on your own. It might be 2 or 3. Who knows? But
might be 1. Could be nothing.
Could be 1. For my wife's sake, I hope it's not none.
Yeah.
Maybe for you guys' sake, that would be good. But for my wife's sake, yeah, I hope he's on time next Tuesday. That would be ideal. So yes, be listening for lots more Spencer and Trenton next week on 580 Sports Talk. They will have their hands are very capable hands.
And if you end up being gone for most of the week and we get up to 600, what does that mean on subscribers?
Means that the subscribers don't like me or Brendan. That's what we will be forced to conclude. We already know they don't like Brendan.
Yeah.
Subscribe to the YouTube, by the way, if you haven't already. Subscribe to our YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk. Wanted to talk a little college hoops real quick here before the end of this 4:00 hour. News reported over the last 24 hours filtered out that Kansas State is going to get a visit from former Kentucky center Ugonna Onyenso. After all, there were some rumors about this a couple of weeks ago, and then when Onyenso officially withdrew from the NBA draft process, Adam Zagoria, who runs Zag's blog and is very tied in with college basketball news and recruiting rumors, had a list of a half a dozen schools that were reportedly interested or in on Onyenso, and Kansas State wasn't one of them. So I assume maybe that interest had cooled a little bit, but that does not appear to be the case. And it sounds like early next week, Onyenso is going to be on campus. Onyenso was a sophomore last year, played 2 seasons at Kentucky, 6'11", 225 pounds. You're not getting a lot of offensive punch. This is not a stretch big. Shot the ball just 2.5 times per game last year. Shot 55% from the field. Just 59% from the free throw line. Averaged 3.6 points a game, but blocked nearly 3 shots per game in just about 19 minutes per game. This is big time rim protection. This is the big body that Kansas State is missing on its roster. They've got 2 scholarships to hand out. And if they could give Onyenso one, then all of a sudden you've got between him and Achor and Baye Fall and David Gasson, a really intriguing front court. Not one other than Achor that I would expect a lot of offense from, but you check all the boxes. You have rim runners, you have rim protection, you've got pick and roll guys. Achor can give you some shooting. Fall and Onyenso each have a lot of eligibility left. Onyenso would have 2 years. Fall has 3. I would really like that get for Kansas State if they could bring Onyenso on board. So I am watching that one with great interest. I mentioned, though, 2 slots for Kansas State. Arthur Kaluma, as we talked about earlier this week, withdrew from the NBA draft process. He's still in the transfer portal. He entered the portal before when he committed to going through the NBA draft process. So there's no guarantee that he comes back to Kansas State, but the possibility remains. Question I had, how urgent of a need is it for K-State to bring Arthur Kaluma back? I happen to think it's a fairly urgent need. I think they really need him because the mix of players that they have, whether they add Onyenso or not, they have big men. They have 4s and 5s on their roster. And they've got their point guard in Doug McDaniel and their point guard of the future in David Castillo. And they've got some guards, and they're bigger at guard than they were last year with C.J. Jones and Max Jones and Brendan Housen as probably the three guys who are going to get a big crack at those guard minutes. But what they don't really have are wings. They don't really have long threes and possible stretch fours in smaller lineups who can guard wing players. They don't have a wing scorer, somebody who can operate and score in the high post or drive and get to the rim and finish on big defenders. I think you have to have a player like that. And Arthur Kaluma, to me, is a player like that at his best. I think that's a player Kansas State would really do well to bring back. They'd still be short on players who fit that role, but I'd rather have one and you slot him in at the 3, and then your lineup makes a ton of sense with McDaniel at the 1 and either Housen or Max Jones at the 2, and then you go Kaluma at the 3, a Chor at the 4, and then either Gasson or maybe Anyenso at the 5. Like that to me that's an NCAA tournament caliber starting lineup to me.
I feel like the longer it takes, the odds go slimmer to get him back.
You may not be wrong about that.
I just feel like I don't know what it necessarily is holding him up. And if, Tim Fitzgerald got into it a little bit, it might be NIL. It might be will he have a solid role pulled that? Like, will they agree to have him have a solid role? NIL is changing, obviously. So how will that impact things? I just think the longer the wait is, the slimmer chances he goes back to K-State.
It would be probably a sign that he's weighing options from elsewhere. But keep in mind, Kaluma didn't commit to K-State last year. I think it was like June 11th. It was early June that he committed. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have any movement on Kaluma even next week. If it maybe takes a little bit for Kaluma to decide where he goes. But I think K-State's really got to prioritize getting, if not exactly Kaluma, they need a wing. They need a big wing. They're bigger at guard. That's good. But they need a big wing. One last thought before we wrap up the hour. CJ Moore, friend of the program. We have him on every week during the college basketball season. He released his too early college basketball top 25 after the NBA withdrawal deadline, the draft withdrawal deadline. A lot of the top 25s we've seen come out have KU at number 1. CJ's got him number 4. He has Alabama number 1, Gonzaga number 2, Houston number 3, and then Kansas. And here's some of what Moore has to say about Kansas at The Athletic. Self-addressed the playmaking and shooting problem with Griffin, Storr, and Mayo. That's obviously Rylan Griffin, AJ Storr, and Zeke Mayo. Self also has more lineup versatility with big wings like Griffin and Storr, who can man the 4 in smaller lineups, and then a more athletic backup 5 in Flory Badunga to take over when Dickinson is struggling guarding ball screens. This is still somewhat of a throwback starting lineup with a non-shooter like KJ Adams at the 4, but the roster construction makes more sense on paper. I think if there's, and maybe I'm misreading this from CJ Moore, but I feel like the holdup with KU is, are we sure they added enough floor spacing shooting? Because the starting lineup still has 2 non-shooters in Harris and Adams and another guy in AJ Storr who's kind of iffy, kind of like Kevin McCullough-ish from 3-point. Like, yeah, you can make them, but do you want him taking a lot of them? Probably not. Zeke Mayo is definitely going to help the shooting off the bench, but is there enough shooting with this group to feel like you've got the space for Harris to get downhill, for Adams or Dickinson to operate in the post? That's why I think KU was so interested in Jackson Robinson and why I think they're still going to be active, why I think they're going to look for one more shooter in the transfer portal.
Yeah, and obviously they lost the transfer from Florida. Now I can't remember his name. Riley Kugel. Yeah. I think that you add him as a bench depth guy, like maybe you're less talking about the reserves that were there last year that didn't do as well that are coming back, or Zach Clements.
That'll wrap up the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk headlines start the 5 o'clock hour after the news on 580 WIBW. Let's get it. Final hour of the day, final hour of the week on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, and producer-engineer Trenton Kraxner with you on this Friday afternoon. And we thank you for being with us, whether you're listening on AM 580, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or if you're watching our mouths make these words on our video stream on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the page. Subscribe today. You can also find us on Facebook, WIBW News, and on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk. However you are consuming this radio program on this Friday afternoon, we thank you for doing so. We look forward to hearing from you throughout the final hour of the program. You can hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. You can also jump into the always lively live chat on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Coming up in this final hour of the show, we're going to start, of course, with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll preview the Royals weekend to come. Royals and Padres, 3 games at the K in some interleague play this weekend. Doesn't feel like the Royals have done a lot of interleague to this point. I'm trying to think of who they've played in the interleague to date. They played Milwaukee. They played the Mets. They went to New York. Help me out, Trenton. Who else did they play in the interleague? I really don't feel like they've done a lot of interleague play yet. I don't think I'm missing anybody.
I'm trying to look at their schedule right now.
Yeah, I haven't played San Francisco or Colorado or the Dodgers. Dodgers are coming up. Colorado is, I think, 4th of July.
I don't think anybody else. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think it's just Milwaukee and
that's it.
And the Mets to date.
Yeah.
How about that? So some interleague action. Of course, the Royals closed the season with back-to-back interleague series. Don't get me started. Boy, I really hate that. I just hate so much that the Royals' last 6 games of this season, where they could be battling for a division crown, they're going to be playing Atlanta and Washington. And as Trent points out in my ear, the last home series of the year is against San Francisco. So last 9 games are interleague games? Man, what the hell?
And then they play Pittsburgh for 13th, 14th, 15th.
Yeah, they've got a lot of interleague in September. It's scheduled.
Because they've only had 2 series so far.
Yeah, 1 interleague series a month, apparently, until September, when it's nothing but National League teams.
I mean, look, when you look that final week, though, the Nationals not going to be fighting for anything but to have a decent record compared to what they had last year. At this rate, the Braves will be crawling to get a playoff spot. Probably.
I think they'll probably have one locked.
I mean, they'll have a wild card spot, but they won't have the division.
Yeah, I don't know if they could very well be like resting starting pitchers, trying to line things up for a wild card series. That's very possible. So
you'll just be probably playing they'll probably be playing a lot of young guys.
Decent chance Pittsburgh's playing out the string by the end of the year. San Francisco's playing out the string. So yeah, that could potentially play in the Royals' favor. But we're a long way from that. As we talked about at the top of the show, this is the toughest month of the season coming up for the Royals, with 20 of their 29 games against teams that woke up this morning with winning records, including the Padres, who are 30-29 coming into tonight. Pre-game coverage, by the way, at 6:30 with school out in greater Kansas City. The Royals are moving their home weeknight start times back from 6:40 to 7:10. So that means a 7:10 first pitch tonight, 6:30 pregame. Means we'll have some 580 Sports Talk overtime for you tonight. We'll hear from our Chiefs insider, Matt Derrick, at about 6:05, just in case you missed that from earlier today. But let's go ahead and start this 5 o'clock hour with some 580 Sports Talk headlines, shall we? And we'll start with a baseball game that you will not be able to hear tonight on 580 WIBW, but will be of some interest.
I'm waiting for the hate text.
Those with the purple persuasion. K-State baseball in postseason play for the first time since 2013. The Wildcats are taking on Louisiana Tech in the Fayetteville Regional tonight. That is a scheduled 7 o'clock first pitch. Obviously, our responsibility to the Royals Radio Network supersedes K-State baseball tonight. But any other K-State games this weekend or at the Fayetteville Regional or in the postseason that do not conflict with the Royals, you'll be able to hear right here on 580 WIBW. I would presume if you would like to listen, KStateSports.com might have an audio link for you. Maybe the Varsity Network app might have a link as well. The first game of the day on a hazy, drizzly day in Fayetteville, Arkansas taking on SEMO. And Spencer, you've got an eye on that one. It's been quite a slugfest.
Yeah, it's 10-9. Arkansas on top, bottom 7th here. Arkansas has 2 runners on the corners, and SEMO is going to their bullpen. They just went to break here. But what I wanted to add was if K-State wins tonight, I believe they're playing. Let me double check this. I had this written down from earlier. They'll play tomorrow at 9 p.m.
A late game.
So that'll probably be on the radio here.
Potentially. The Royals are an afternoon tomorrow, right?
Yeah, so it will be.
Yeah.
But if they lose, they play at 3 p.m., so it's definitely not going to be on tomorrow.
Right.
If they lose tonight.
If you want to hear K-State on 580 WIBW, root for a dub tonight against the Bulldogs of Louisiana Tech.
You can call them La Tech for short.
La Tech for short.
Yeah. As a guy that covered the conference they used to be in.
Sure.
And talked about them quite a bit.
I'm sure their SID, whoever he is, appreciates that you read the game notes. They don't put those together for their help.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes it's quite the opposite. But yes, K-State against La Tech tonight. 7 o'clock first pitch. If you have ESPN Plus, you'll be able to catch it. Do you watch much of the college baseball postseason? Like just general interest level in it?
No, I mean, I love watching the College World Series. When it gets to the College World Series, I will watch.
See, I like the regional weekend the best because they do the squeeze play where they'll show they'll whip around from game to game.
You say this, and it's on the ESPN Plus right now. Scan now for NCAA site-to-site coverage squeeze play.
I love squeeze play. I love 5 or 6 games being tracked at once, especially the late games, the games in the West Coast regionals. They have rules. I love regional weekend.
Arkansas just tacked on another one.
All right.
11-9.
And they're in the 8th, you said?
Bottom 7.
Bottom 7.
With 1 out.
All right. So, winner of that one gets the winner between K-State and La Tech tomorrow night late, 9 o'clock.
Well, it might be 8 o'clock, excuse me.
Yeah, I guess it'd be 8 o'clock Central. Yeah, all those times are Eastern up on ESPN.com. Yeah. So, it'd be 8 o'clock first pitch tomorrow for K-State if they win, 3 o'clock if they get beat. In Women's College World Series action, the adopted team, for those of us here in the capital city who like to cheer on the former Topeka High Trojan, Nyjah Kennedy. It was a tough one for Nyjah and Stanford last night in their first game of the Women's College World Series up against the number 1 national seed, Texas. Nothing doing at the plate for the Cardinal, and Texas scratched across 2 runs in, I believe, the 4th and then 2 more in the 6th to beat the Cardinal 4-0. So Stanford drops into the losers bracket. They will play Oklahoma State tonight in an elimination game. That'll be an 8:30 scheduled first pitch from Oklahoma City as Stanford tries to keep their season and Women's College World Series run alive.
I believe Barbara from the YouTube comments earlier on said she's going to be switching back on ESPN Plus between the K-State game and the Stanford game.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. So we will certainly be watching with some interest. I tried to watch a little bit of the softball, but it was just frustrating to watch Stanford's offense. It's probably, you get to the College World Series, the Women's College World Series, it's not like you have a bad offense, but in relation to the other teams there, Stanford's kind of punchless on offense compared to the other 7 teams.
Because
relatively speaking.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously Kennedy has kind of carried them clearly by her ERA to this point. So sometimes you got to scratch some more runs across when you're deep in the tournament.
It's pretty difficult to pitch shutout ball all the time. And that was what was required. Yeah. You can't win when you don't score. So that's your NCAA stick and ball sport postseason update to start off our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Spencer, what's your first headline today?
Let me pull that back up. I got 10 windows because everything decided to separate. We've got some interesting Big 12 leadership changes going on when it comes to what they're doing and the competitiveness of their sports. They have promoted Vice President of Football Scott Draper to Chief Football and Competition Officer. Will have executive oversight of the entire competition department while continuing to manage and grow Big 12 football. He'll be joined by a to-be-named later director of football this summer. And something that is huge right now, clearly based upon what the NCAA women's basketball tournament did numbers wise and what the WNBA is doing numbers wise. As it continues to flourish, the conference has tapped Dana Sheriff, I believe Sheriff, to serve as the newly created role as vice president of women's basketball. In this role, she'll focus exclusively on overseeing Big 12 women's basketball and its growth trajectory. She had previously served as just VP of women's basketball and competition. So they've created a new role in order to make sure women's basketball in the conference flourishes, which I think is huge for the conference as we shift now from the Power 5 to the Power 4, and the Big 12 women's basketball is starting to go up.
One inside baseball note from this press release: Senior Director of Big 12 Media Services, Joni Lehman, will retire after 26 years at the Big 12 Conference. For those of us who work in the media and cover Big 12 athletics, that is a very familiar name in all of our email inboxes.
Yeah.
And Joni has worked very, very hard in that role over 26 years. Best of luck to her in retirement. Clark Williams is being promoted to Vice President of Communications and Strategy in her stead. Next sports headline here on 580 Sports Talk: not a K-State transfer portal commitment in football. According to multiple sources, the Wildcats are set to add a former all-conference group of 5 player to their cornerback group. Jordan Dunbar, previously a Rice Owl, expected to transfer to K-State. Dunbar redshirted last year, but was an all-conference USA selection at Rice in 2022 and was an all-freshman team selection in 2021. So Dunbar would have, I believe, 2 years of eligibility remaining. We were talking the other day about the expectations for Kansas State and what could cause Kansas State to fall short of some of the loftier expectations that some may have of them. And I brought up defensive playmaking as being an area of some concern. Who's going to be the star pass rusher? Who's going to generate the most pass rush? They've got some guys on the roster who I think are capable of making steps forward. Brendan Mott, most notably, but will he make that leap? And then I mentioned the cornerback room. I said outside of Jacob Parrish and Keenan Garber, who I think are a solid pair of corners, who else is going to step forward and help out at that position and provide the depth that you need at the cornerback spot? Well, looks like K-State has added somebody who can help them right away in Jordan Dunbar. That's a good add for the Wildcats in the transfer portal. Next headline, Spencer.
Yeah, we'll stick with K-State here as they've announced their 2024 Hall of Fame class, which will be inducted in August. 2 football greats, Nick Leckie, Kevin Lockett, pair of men's basketball legends. How do you say it? Askia Jones and Jacob Pullen, former women's basketball head coach Deb Patterson, Deanna Miller, a former player for women's hoops, Scott Sellers of track and field, Kim Zachu of volleyball.
Your guess is good as mine on her last name. Apologies.
And Carl and Mary Ice as contributors to the K-State family over their period of time. So,
10 honorees into the Hall of Fame class. Pullen is the interesting name here, like in this sense. It is past time for K-State to retire some more numbers, put some more numbers in the rafters for men's basketball. I guess those numbers aren't necessarily retired, but it is past time to put some more numbers in the rafters. I think Rolando Blackman's the most recent one. I could be off on this, but I'm trying to pull it up. Gosh, goodness knows I've got picture after picture of myself at the arena. So not of myself, but of the arena
that you've taken,
that I have taken over the years. I should be more familiar with who the last number. Yeah, it's Blackman. I think chronologically speaking, Blackman is the most recent number that they have put up there. Check that. I'm sorry. It's Mitch Richmond. My mistake. My bad. Mitch Richmond is the most recent one. So that's a long time though. Like yeah. Mitch Richmond, his final season at K-State was 1988. So it's been a long time. And again, the years from 1988 to 2024 have only been intermittently successful for K-State men's basketball, but it is past time to add to that list of banners. And Jacob Pullen is the most obvious name that should be added. And over the years, there's been an outcry. Why isn't Pullen in the rafters yet? They've got to get him up in the rafters. And Pullen has always said soon, we got to make it work scheduling wise. That's a big part of it. But hopefully putting him in the Athletics Hall of Fame is the impetus to finally get his number up there in the Bramlage Coliseum rafters where it belongs. I don't know how much Jacob Pullen you got to see play college basketball, Spencer, but let me tell you, that dude was a hooper. He's the all-time leading scorer in K-State history, the first three-time captain in K-State history, the second Wildcat to eclipse 2,000 career points, a two-time All-American, and a baller and a half. Just a really, really fun player. And congratulations to him and all of the other honorees, the 2024 Athletic Hall of Fame class at K-State. Let's keep the headlines going on this Friday afternoon edition of 580 Sports Talk. For our next headline, I don't know if this qualifies as sports. I feel like this qualifies more as the circus. But if you were excited about the fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, I have some bad news for you.
It's off?
It is not off, but it has been postponed. Mike Tyson has an ulcer. He experienced a health issue on a flight that required medical attention on Sunday. It did not appear initially that it would affect the fight, but that's changed after the most recent visit to the doctor. For the 57-year-old Mike Tyson, who issued a statement saying, unfortunately, due to my ulcer flare-up, I have been advised by my doctor to lighten my training for a few weeks to rest and recover. A new fight date is expected to be announced on June 7th. I cannot stress enough.
Jake Paul is half his age.
Less than half his age. Jake Paul is 27. Yeah. Mike Tyson turns 38 at the end of 58.
Yeah.
Excuse me, at the end of next month. Like, this is what professional boxing is now, just a series of sideshows. Like, I have respect for the sport of boxing, the craft, the sport of kings, right? Like, I have respect for the sport, but what it has become professionally is a farce. And the fact that this fight is happening and that it is probably going to sell a lot of tickets at AT&T Stadium and a lot of pay-per-view buys, that people are going to pay money, lots of it, to watch 58-year-old Mike Tyson fight a YouTuber is, like, physically revolting to me. Absolutely disgusting. And hey, look, that's me. Maybe you out there listening have a different opinion. Maybe your kids love Jake Paul. Maybe you love Jake Paul. I don't know. Different strokes for different folks. I'm not here to say what I think is the only opinion. It just happens to be my only opinion. My opinion is this is nonsense. This should not be happening. This is a stain, not just on boxing, but on sports. The fact that this is the top headline on ESPN.com is a stain on sports. I have a text from the 785 that says that just delays a massive beatdown. And my question for the texter, and you can answer if you'd like on the Top City Metal Supply text line, is beat down for who?
Yeah, who?
And I'm kind of asking genuinely here, because my expectation would be that Mike Tyson, even at the advanced age of 58, even dealing with an ulcer, should be able to slap around a YouTuber with no real issue. Like, and the texter does confirms that he expects it to be Jake Paul getting beaten down. That would actually, like, I think a lot of people, maybe the majority of people who would purchase such a fight, tune into such a thing, would be to root for that outcome. But again, if that was something that you were getting excited about, it's going to be delayed. PPD.
Yeah.
Because of an ulcer for 57-year-old Mike Tyson. Next headline, please.
Yes, we'll kind of continue that soiree of somebody doing something that they haven't done in their previous life, like Jake Paul getting into boxing. This time, it is a gold medal winning wrestler, one of the most dominant college wrestlers in NCAA history, Gable Steveson, I think is how you say his name.
Uh-huh.
He is making a huge career change and signing with the Buffalo Bills per his agent, Carter Chow. He will now try to join Bob Hayes as the only athlete to win a Super Bowl ring and an Olympic gold medal. But to give you some more insight on this, from where is it? Let me find it. From a story on ESPN.com that Adam Schefter did write that gives more insight on this. His first time putting on a pair of cleats came with his workout with the Buffalo Bills. So it appears he did not play high school ball.
So this guy who washed out of WWE, which is a wild
He'll play defensive line, by
thing
the
to
way.
say. Yes, they say he's going to play defensive tackle. He's 265 pounds. Are there a lot of 265-pound defensive tackles out there, Spencer?
275 pounds? I don't think so.
265.
The ESPN story says 6'1", 275.
Interesting. I had read 265 elsewhere. Anyway, either way, 6'1", 275. Are there a lot of 275, 6'1" defensive tackles out there?
No, they're more like 6'5", 350.
If you're not going three bills and you're not Aaron Donald.
330, 320, 350.
So I have my doubts about the effectiveness of this. And there's also the fact that back in June of 2019, Stevenson, and I think it's very interesting that ESPN omitted this portion in their story. But back in June of 2019, Stevenson and one of his teammates in wrestling at the University of Minnesota, Dylan Martinez, they were arrested after a woman reported that she was raped by the two men and went to the hospital for treatment. At the time, there was a loophole in Minnesota law that said a person could not be charged for sexual assault or rape if the alleged victim was willingly intoxicated. So Stevenson and Martinez faced no punishment. That loophole has since been closed. They closed that loophole 2 years later in the state of Minnesota. Stevenson won a gold medal 2 years later, washed out of WWE, apparently deeply unpopular with the fans. He did one televised match. They were booing him, and they never put him back on TV again. I don't know, man. I don't think this is the type of guy that you want to reward with an opportunity like this, to be completely frank about it. A guy who, if not for a loophole, might be in prison. Like, I don't know. Like, you cut Matt Araiza for worse, and then Matt Araiza was cleared of all wrongdoing, like in his
courts.
case. Yeah. So, but you cut him, and then you sign this guy. Like, what's there's not much consistency there, in my opinion, from the Buffalo.
You know what is consistent though?
What's that?
This guy's not going to make a lot of money, and that's what they need to sign players that they don't have to pay a lot of money.
This is true
to build their depth.
They'll take anybody. They'll take flyers on anybody right now.
Yeah.
They've got like $13 under the salary cap right now. All right, let's wrap up the 580 Sports Talk headlines for the day with a playoff roundup.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk playoff roundup.
The NBA Finals are set. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving went nuts last night as the Dallas Mavericks destroyed the Minnesota Timberwolves 124-103 to win the Western Conference Finals in 5 games. It is the third trip to the NBA Finals in Dallas Mavericks history. They are 1-1 all time in the finals, winning the title in 2011. Game 1 of the finals next Thursday. Hope you're not in a hurry to watch much basketball. Or at least NBA basketball. Plenty of WNBA action on TV if you're jonesing for some hoops. Boston opened as minus 230 favorites to beat Dallas in the finals. That's according to FanDuel. That is an implied 70% chance of victory in the series for Boston. I think Boston is going to win the series. I think they're going to win it in 6. If I had any faith that Boston wouldn't inexplicably go bozo mode for a game at a time, I might pick them to win in 5. I think that Dallas does have the best player in the series, probably, in Luka Doncic. And that does make me a little concerned with my prediction.
It does appear Kristaps Porzingis is, quote, getting better ahead of the finals, and he's got a whole extra week to get better.
Whole extra week to get better and rest up. Boston had more time to get rested because they finished off their series in a sweep. I just do. The Celtics won 64 games, stampeded through the postseason. I think they're going to be fresh. I think they're going to be ready. I just don't think,
especially if Porzingis can come.
And if Porzingis plays, I think they could really win it in 4 or 5 games. Trenton, I know you like the hoops. Who you got in the finals?
I got the Mavs.
You got the Mavs. How many?
6.
Mavs in 6.
That Kyrie and Luka is the best backcourt in maybe the history of the NBA as a scoring unit, and I think they're better than Tatum and Brown. And the Mavs have played a way harder schedule. They had to go through the Clippers, the Thunder, who's the number 1 seed in the West, and then they had to go through Minnesota, who has Michael Jordan Jr. on their team.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
So they played a way harder schedule getting to the finals, in my opinion.
I would agree with that assessment wholeheartedly. They had a much tougher road to get here. Luka and Kyrie were making some absurd shots last night. And they are high-level shot makers. There's a very good chance they could do that and that's good enough for 4 wins in 7. I just think Boston's a little bit more complete. I think they can throw some different things defensively at those two, and I think they're going to need to score 70 a night, and they might. Like, they're good enough to do it, but I just think Boston's been. Maybe it was always Boston. Maybe all along it was Boston. Looking for banner 18. You got a prediction, Spencer?
I think we're going to see 7 games because it's the NBA Finals and the NBA wants to push it out. I'm that conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
Scott
Foster working games 5 and 6, the extender.
Look, we saw a quick conference finals for the most part.
We did.
What was it? 5 games in the West.
Mm-hmm.
So no 4 games, obviously the sweep for the Celtics. So I think we're due for 7-gamer, and I think the 7th game will go to OT. But I do think the Celtics win.
Lenny Dawson on the YouTube live chat says, "Go Dallas. Never cared for Boston." The Jayhawker points out that a Jayhawk is going to get a ring one way or another. Markieff Morris or Svi Mikhailuk will add to their jewelry collection, regardless of how the finals turn out. Mikhailuk, a Celtic, and Markieff Morris, a Dallas Maverick. In the NHL last night, good one at the Garden. Anton Lundell broke a tie with 9:38 to play to give the Florida Panthers a 3-2 win over the Rangers and a 3-2 series lead in the Eastern Conference Finals. Tonight, the pivotal Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. Dallas and Edmonton tied at 2 games apiece. Before I say anything else mean about the Minnesota Timberwolves, who I'm very glad to see lose, the basketball gods were watching. They saw you taunt and celebrate at the end of Game 7 of the Denver series like you'd done something. Hang the banner for making a conference finals, you losers, you loser franchise. All right, now I'm done. Let's take a break. We'll come back with more 580 Sports Talk after this. 5:36 here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Spencer, Trenton, the group with you on this Friday. Want to say one more thank you to the good folks at the Big Biscuit in Topeka for keeping us hydrated and fed this afternoon. The Big Biscuit's Topeka location opened in 2020, and since then has been serving up a great experience. Visit them between 6:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And remember, don't mess with breakfast. I tell you, the next time I go, which we go pretty frequently, my in-laws love the place. So my wife and I meet her parents a lot at the Big Biscuit. Next time I go, I'm definitely going to order up the Cowboy Colada. That's a tropical mix of starry pineapple juice, coconut cream, and lime, part of their new Western soda lineup at the Big Biscuit in Topeka.
Tell you what, I'm going to order that
the brunch
burger like that. That just did that. That's a lot of food. It's a lot in a burger. And I think it'd be even better eating it there.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like when you get takeout stuff, it's always hard unless it's pizza for it to be the best that it's going to be. Even though it was really good.
That can be true. It kind of depends on the packaging and what it is that you order. Like fries sometimes are a gamble. Sometimes they turn out good. You just kind of got to feel it out. You never know for sure.
Yeah. And I like that it was already great. The bottom bun just fell off because it wasn't right out of the oven.
Yeah, it wasn't right out
of the fryer.
Sure.
Whatever. Yeah.
Royals baseball tonight. They are anticipating a 7:10 first pitch, but the tarp is on the field, putting a literal damper on the Big Slick celebrity softball game that is supposed to be played tonight. Spencer, you may not be aware.
I have no clue what you
from
just
here
said.
There are weirdly a lot of really famous comedians from the Kansas City area, comedians / comedic actors like Paul Rudd, Jason Sudeikis, and David Koechner, and Rob Riggle, Heidi Gardner. Like there's a heavy celebrity comedy presence from the greater Kansas City area. This is the best I can explain it to somebody who's not from the area. They do a charity softball game every year. They call it the Big Slick. It's supposed to start at 5 o'clock, or was supposed to start at 5 o'clock. But the tarp was just coming off the field. So not sure if they'll be able to get Big Slick in tonight before the Royals game, because they are targeting an on-time Royals start. 7:10 first pitch, 6:30 pregame here on 580 WIBW.
And it appears the rain is kind of like, that's it. It's just right now. Like there's no rain threat, I don't believe, for the rest of the evening.
Here's hoping that the rain clears, get it in, and could be a good pitching matchup tonight. The former Padre, Michael Wacha.
Apparently, according to PJ Green, 8 minutes ago for Fox 4 KC, he says they're out there getting ready for it. The tarp's off the field.
Okay, might be an abbreviated Big Slick tonight then.
Yeah.
They might have to play in a hurry. It might be they get one and a half innings in,
Harold Kuntz says maybe we get 1 to 2 innings.
Like in the Bad News Bears and Breaking Training, where they play like 1 to 2 innings, and then they try to clear the kids off, and Tanner runs around and the security guards can't catch him, and Bob Watson starts chanting, "Let them play," and they get to finish the game. Have you seen that one? Bad News Bears and Breaking Training? Trenton? No? They show it on MLB Network. Like literally, I think they were showing it on Saturday. They show that one all the time. Like the original Bad News Bears. You guys are familiar with the original Bad News Bears. Walter Matthau, Jackie Earle Haley. They made a sequel. And Walter Matthau doesn't come back, and neither does Tatum O'Neal for the sequel. Yeah. So the manager and the pitcher aren't there, but Kelly Leak is back, and they go to the Astrodome, and they play an exhibition game. And, Tanner runs around. Let them play. It's the whole thing. Anyway, I wouldn't call it a classic, but, if it shows up in your channel guide on the MLB Network, maybe give it a watch. It is kind of funny. Anyway, there will be Major League Baseball tonight at Kauffman Stadium. It will be a good pitching matchup. Michael Wacha, the former Padre, on the mound for Kansas City. Dylan Cease, the former White Sox, on the bump for the Padres, acquired in a trade just before the start of this season. He has been dynamite away from Petco Park. Trenton dug up these statistics. Dylan Cease 4-0 in his 6 road starts with a 2.45 earned run average, 47 strikeouts to just 12 walks in 36 2/3 innings, and a 159 batting average against. He's been 1-4 with a 4.34 ERA at home, which is odd because Petco Park, generally considered a pitcher's park, hasn't had much success there, but he's pitched very well away from San Diego, and he will get a crack at the Royals tonight. Michael Wacha, again, on the bump for Kansas City. The Royals lineup looks pretty familiar. Pulling it up as we speak, or trying to anyhow. It will be a familiar lineup, though, for the Royals today. Michael Garcia is going to lead things off at third base, followed by Bobby Witt Jr. at shortstop. And I would love it if MLB.com were faster, or if I just planned ahead better. I'm a step behind where I need to be. You go ahead and blame Friday for that. Yeah, I just don't want to move at all. This is great. This is great radio. This is awesome what's happening right now. Michael Wacha, 4-5, 4.31 ERA for the Royals, trying to even up his record on the season.
So you're looking for the lineup?
Yes, it's going to come eventually. Do you have it?
Yes.
Do it.
Garcia.
Right.
Witt.
Right.
Pasquantino.
Uh-huh.
Perez.
Sure.
Velasquez DHing.
Yes. Melendez
in left.
I've got it now. Frazier at second. Thank you. I'll take the baton. Hunter Renfroe in right. Kyle Isbell in center. Wow. Great performance by MLB.com this segment. Really awesome stuff. Really appreciate the lag there. So it is, like I said, a familiar lineup. The top four, pretty much what you've come to expect. Velasquez had a good road trip, batting fifth. Melendez had a good day on Thursday. Hit the ball hard 3 times. Hit a home run. Drew a walk. He'll bat 6. Then Frazier, Renfroe, and Isbell to round out the lineup. For the Padres, Luis Ariz will play first base and lead off, followed by right fielder Fernando Tatis Jr. and left fielder Jurickson Profar. Jake Cronenworth at second base, Manny Machado at third. Recently called up David Peralta, former Wichita wingnut. David Peralta is the DH.
I didn't even
sixth.
know he was still playing.
Yeah, he's still kicking around. He was with the Dodgers last year. Of course, longtime Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Jackson Merrill, the 21-year-old center fielder, batting 7th. Luis Campusano does the catching, batting 8th. Ha-Sung Kim is the shortstop. He bats 9th. That is a look at your lineup. The other pitching matchups this weekend: Alec Marsh against Joe Musgrove tomorrow. Cole Reagan's on the bump on Sunday against right-hander Michael King. 3 right-handers lined up against the Royals this weekend. Winnable series, Spencer?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think so. I don't know. Tonight might be tough. Trenton dug up some numbers on Dylan Cease. His road starts significantly better than his home starts.
Right. Yeah, we went through those. The Royals, however, have been really good at home.
Yeah. So one's got to give.
Yeah, something's got to give. Exactly. I think it'll be a good weekend of baseball. I think that if the Royals can continue the way that they played at home, they've been really good at home. They've been really good at making starting pitchers work and then getting to that starting pitcher the third time through the order. And I think you want to get to the starter late and the middle of that Padres bullpen, because the back end has been really, really good. They got one dude, all he does is strike guys out. He doesn't allow hits anymore. I think he struck out 15 consecutive batters.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I want to make sure I get his name exactly right. Jeremiah Estrada. Jeremiah Estrada, not a name I was familiar with until fairly recently, but he struck out 28 guys in 16 1/3, including the last 15 batters he's faced. So young right-hander on a heater. Robert Suarez, 16 saves, a .73 ERA. Yeah, you don't want to deal with those guys. You don't want to be trailing late against this Padre bullpen. You want to do your damage in the middle innings. The Royals can pull that off. They absolutely have a chance to pull off a series win. We'll take a quick break, come back with some more 580 Sports Talk after this. Something interesting from Ann Rogers of MLB.com, covers the Royals for Royals.com. The Royals haven't listed Cole Reagans as their Sunday starter. They've listed a TBA, to be announced. Brady Singer, who was skipped yesterday, threw a bullpen today and reportedly is feeling much better. There's a chance that Singer could throw on Sunday afternoon against the Padres, which would get him back on a little bit of extended rest. It would also give an extra day of rest to Cole Reagans and to Seth Lugo, and it would line them up to pitch in Cleveland against the Guardians. Treat that series with some real gravity. Make sure you've got your two best starting pitchers lined up to face the team in first place in the American League Central. I love stuff like this. See, isn't it fun when it matters?
Oh,
isn't
yeah.
it fun when there's like, you've got to think about how do we want to line up our rotation? Because
We've got an off day.
Yeah, usually you just don't think about it. It's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, turn it around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who cares? These guys all stink. We're 28 and 79 or whatever it is. No, it matters. It's exciting.
And the off day helps you out there. And it's always good when you have an off day before a divisional opponent that you're trying to face, or you're facing off for the top spot in, and you're able to tinker your rotation so your best guys are going against the best team. Also, Ann Rogers is reporting that Michael Massey is still day-to-day with most baseball activities. He saw a specialist today and received, quote, a couple of injections, Quatrero said, to help the recovery process. A rehab stint will depend on how he feels, so there's not a good timeline known yet.
Man, Royals could really use him back. He was really coming alive and taking ownership of that 5-hole. I think that Nick Lofton is a player. Like, I think he's a big leaguer. I don't think he's a fringe guy. I think he can help the Royals. But, man, they'll be a better team when they get Michael Massey back. It's just back injuries are so tricky. Looking at the Guardians, how they might line up for that series, their best guy, at least in my opinion, their best guy is Tanner Bybee, and he'd be lined up to go in the third game of that series. I think the way that they have the rotation running, they've got a TBA on Sunday against Washington. They could go Tristan McKenzie there on regular rest, or they could push him back to the Tuesday game against Kansas City and then pitch Logan Allen in his turn in the rotation on that Wednesday and go McKenzie, Allen, and Bybee. That would be a significant starting pitching advantage to the Royals in that series if that's how it lined out. All right, gang. What do we got going on this weekend, Spencer? Outside of keeping track of the boys in blue, big home series against San Diego, what else we got going on?
Nothing. Back to my boring self.
Oh, boring?
Yeah.
Okay, you gotta sell yourself a little better than that now, Spence. Come on now.
Got some stuff to get done around the apartment. I could rant about 10 minutes about the issue that I ran into yesterday.
Oh dear.
I don't know if I want to, but
well, you don't have 10 minutes. If that
it'll be a quick little
decision.
30-second bit here. So my complex decided they wanted to put in new electric boxes. Where you flip the
fuse
box. Yes. And so they gave like a 3-day window because it's going to take a few hours. They got to turn the electric off in all the apartments and whatever.
Uh-huh.
So it happened to be yesterday. The guy came over like 8. The electrician came over at 8:30. I'll probably be here around 11. Well, I was obviously working. Didn't go home at lunch because the electricity would have been off. There would have been no point. And the fuse box is in my kitchen. I come home last night and the electrician just left all his dust everywhere. So my kitchen was just full of drywall dust.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, I didn't notice it immediately when I walked in. I walked around, put some stuff down, went back at like 6:30 to go start cooking dinner, and I turned on the light.
Oh, man.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Well, it's probably good to give it a once over every now and again anyway. So
but it was like the whole stove.
Yeah.
I had to clean the floor.
That's a drag.
Yeah, not great.
We'll take a quick question from the Top City Metal Supply text line before we take our final break here from the 785. Any thoughts about when Drew Waters might get called up by the Royals? Waters having a good year at AAA. I think the Royals can exercise a bit more patience with their corner outfielders as it stands. Nelson Velasquez looked like maybe he's starting to turn a corner. That last road trip, he was really good. MJ Melendez, I said last week that I thought it was probably time to send Melendez down. I thought Thursday was the most encouraging he's looked at the plate in a while. I want to see if maybe he can build on that 1 for 3 with a dinger and a walk and 2 other hard hit balls that were unfortunate, hard luck outs. I want to see if he can build on that because he was a second half player last year. I think both of those guys have a higher ceiling than Waters. So I don't know if we're going to see Drew Waters anytime real soon, but if they were going to try somebody new, he'd be first on the list from AAA, no doubt. One final break. Final words next on 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up, walking off this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk with a final word. Spencer.
It is great to be through 2 months of Major League Baseball and be talking about a winner.
Man, you have no idea.
I think that I lucked into a pretty darn good sports job when I got out here. I literally stepped into the playoff run for the Chiefs to their back-to-back Super Bowl championships.
Yes, you did.
And KU and K-State were fighting for spots in the tournament. Injuries didn't help them there. But then we get to baseball season. I was pretty high on the Royals, a little bit higher than you guys. And right now, so far, they've banked a ton of wins. They're making me look really smart. We still have a lot of time to go, but should be a good weekend of Royals baseball. And I think Trenton's going to come back and show us the bobblehead he's getting tomorrow.
Yeah, he's getting the Pasquatch bobblehead. Hopefully you learn from Spencer's mistake and you make sure you get to the game early enough to get your bobblehead. You will want to get there early. Those lines do move pretty quick.
I think it's for 16,000 or something.
It's cool looking bobblehead. Yeah, that's my final word too, is that we're not just going into a fun weekend. We're going into a fun month. This will be a very interesting month of Royals baseball. We're going to learn a whole heck of a lot about what this team is made out of when they play some of the very best teams in baseball and some of the most talented teams in baseball, kind of like this San Diego team that's coming to town this week. And by the time the dust settles on the month of June, we're going to know a whole lot more about this Royals team. That's going to do it for 580 Sports Talk. We got some overtime. We'll hear from Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider, coming up in the 6 o'clock hour, taking up to Royals baseball at 6:30. We will be back from 2 to 6 on Monday. I say we, maybe not me if my wife goes into labor, but maybe I will be in the box from 2 to 6. So we'll talk to you when we talk to you. For Trenton, for Spencer, I'm Dan. This has been 580 Sports Talk.